Okay, just wanted to get that in there.
Hello, everybody. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Councilmember Patino?
Present.
Supervisor Eckert?
Here.
Councilmember Foreman?
Here.
Councilmember Ryan?
Here.
Okay. We need to amend the agenda for a couple of things. We have a discussion of resolution to authorize Vanderwater and Vanderwater to enter into a tax cert. And then we have one to just a resolution to declare a police vehicle surplus. 9327 is closed, withdrawn. Number 9423 closed as it is a duplicate. I present it as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is acceptance of minutes, Town Board regular meeting, July 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have any new employees here today? No? Okay. Next up is privilege of the floor for general time items. So anything that you would like to speak about, this is the time to do it. Ms. Burka, you put your hand up first.
No.
Can't hear you.
Hold on.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Good.
Good evening. Jody Lynn Burka, Old Glenham Road. First of all, I'd like to say a very, very sincere thank you to Highway Superintendent Carmine Istvan and the entire Highway Department for such a wonderful, thoughtful job they did paving Old Glenham Road.
Hear, hear.
Not only did they take the time to grade the dirt and add dirt where it was low, they also added curbing and did beautiful cut jobs into people who already had blacktop. Thank you, Carmine. Thank you, Highway Department. Additionally, anybody who traveled Old Glenham Road, despite the signs that were up that said that we were going to have a lot of disruption, there was minimal disruption for a project that size. They deserve a very well-deserved round of applause. Thank you, Carmine. Count on Carmine. Next. Tonight, there is a vote up for a tow company to be put on the tow list. That tow company is in the town of Fishkill. They pay taxes to the town of Fishkill. They have the fire inspector from the town of Fishkill go down and verify. They also have an operating permit to be in the town of Fishkill. Not only that, the owners of that business live in the town of Fishkill legally. They also pay taxes, and they deserve to have an opportunity on the list, just like everybody else does. I know there's 4, we can put 6, so make it 5. I personally have had conversations with people in this town and town officials regarding this very item that's going to be discussed. I'm hoping that those people are good to their word. I would hate to think, and I'm sure all of us would hate to think, that a politician wouldn't be good to their word. So good luck on the vote tonight, and I'm sure you'll all do what's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Next. Sir, identify who you are, please, and where you live.
Yeah, hi, my name's Andrew Hiller. I live in Rosendale, but organize in Fishkill with
Say it again.
I live in Rosendale. And
Where's that at?
Ulster.
Ulster?
Yeah, thank you. But I organize in Fishkill with the Mid-Hudson Valley DSA Housing Working Group.
I'm sorry.
I didn't understand that.
Mid-Hudson.
Mid-Hudson Valley DSA Housing Working Group.
Okay, what is that?
We are the Mid-Hudson Valley chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Okay.
And we have been knocking doors of tenants in Fishkill to talk to them about good cause eviction protections.
Where in Fishkill?
We're in Fishkill,
Doesn't need to be.
all over town.
General.
Well, he's talking about, yeah, I'm sorry. We're in Fishkill, 90 quarter, 52 where?
All
Well,
over
you
the
guys
place.
should know where you guys are knocking.
We've been all over the place.
All right, go on.
All right, 2 out of 3 Fishkill residents are tenants. Over the past month, our members have been knocking their doors to talk to them about good cause eviction protections. We've heard story after story of folks struggling to keep up with rising rents, often while dealing with substandard living conditions. Rents here are rising much faster than wages, and tenants can't keep up. The average hourly wage for a renter in Dutchess County in 2023 was $18.32 an hour, and in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, an average renter would need to earn $30.44, which is nearly double the average wage. In order to afford an average 1-bedroom apartment in Fishkill, you need to earn at least $72,000. This is simply beyond many working-class tenants' means. As a result, we've already seen a good bit of displacement here in Fishkill, and it's only getting worse. It's critical that you act decisively to make sure rents remain affordable for working-class people here. Currently, the rental market is so tight that landlords have very little incentive to make their units habitable. Unfortunately, in some cases, that incentive is not enough. If a tenant complains or withholds rent, a landlord can simply decline to renew their lease, and the guarantee of the lease renewal and protection from unfair rent hikes that Good Cause provides gives tenants the security to demand the repairs they need without the fear of retaliation. Not surprisingly, studies have shown that apartments with tenant protections are actually better maintained. Small landlords who treat their tenants fairly have nothing to fear from Good Cause. The bill does not protect tenants who don't pay, violate their lease terms, damage property, or create a nuisance. Good Cause simply defines the reasons a landlord can evict a tenant and gives tenants the right to challenge increases beyond a reasonable limit in court. It's far from radical, but Good Cause eviction will give Fishkill renters a critical safety net and the insurance that as long as they keep paying their rent and don't break the lease, they can renew at a reasonable rent and stay in their homes. The bill as written gives municipalities the authority to adjust certain parameters, particularly the definition of a small landlord, and your choice there could significantly affect how many tenants are covered. So we urge the council to follow the City of Albany, Kingston, and Poughkeepsie, and pass the strongest version of the law possible by defining a small landlord as the owner of 1 unit. Not only would setting the portfolio exemption higher than 1 unnecessarily exclude thousands of vulnerable tenants, it would make it much harder for those who are covered to enforce their rights. As I'm sure you know, it's common for landlords to own several properties under different limited liability corporations that their names are not attached to. If landlords who own more than 1 unit are exempt, it will be extremely difficult for tenants to know how many other units their landlord owns. The bill already exempts landlords who live in the same building as the units they rent, with the exception of buildings larger than 10 units, so there's no need to exempt even more tenants from these vital protections. Fishkill tenants are in crisis. Please stand up for them and make sure as many of them as possible are covered by passing Good Cause as quickly as possible and by defining a small landlord as the owner of 1 unit and setting the high rent exemption at 345% of fair market rent. Thank you.
Are you guys together?
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. So you guys are together. What made you decide to come to Fishkill to do this?
So,
Why'd you pick Fishkill to knock on doors, and why'd you pick here? Because of him?
yeah, our member Adam is a
Okay.
tenant and has lived here all his life. And,
Yeah, he's a local boy.
Yeah, and I feel strongly about protecting tenants and stopping displacement here in Fishkill, but he'll
Okay.
talk all about that.
So you know we've been discussing this prior to you
Yes.
coming here, right?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you,
Just
sir.
here to show our support.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Moran. I live in neighboring city of Beacon, which has a very tough rental market. And I'm here speaking also in favor of urging the town board to pass the strongest good cause eviction bill that you can. I was in city of Beacon when the city opted in to pass a good cause eviction bill, but it got preempted by the state, by the courts. And I was one of those tenants that had to move because my landlord did not renew my lease. I am deathly afraid, just like living with 2 other housemates, about a rent increase. I work for one of the largest corporations in the world, and I cannot expect an increase in my wages. And like everywhere I've knocked in the Hudson Valley, whether it's Fishkill, City of Beacon, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, we see these large landlord companies or property management companies buying up properties where people live 20 years, 5 years, however long they've lived there, and the rent's coming up just raising extremely high.
Yeah,
And they
just to give advice, if you're gonna knock on doors somewhere, you need to know where you've been, so when the supervisor or mayor asks you where you've been, you have an answer for them. So it's important, we have about 4,000 homes, what, 4,500 rental units in the Fishkill, and we have that same concern that you have, it's been on our agenda, but when you say all over the town of Fishkill, you know, we like to know where.
Well, we could go over that if you'd like. We could give you the
Yeah,
places where we've been.
Hudson View Point,
and we-
you know, Mountain View
Hudson-
Apartments.
Yes, we've been to Hudson, yeah. So we care deeply about, like, the Hudson Valley become deeply unaffordable for working class people. I've had to move multiple times in the Hudson Valley, and I'm tired of moving and watching my communities be ripped apart and having to go farther and farther to go visit family and friends because they can't afford. They keep on going farther north.
And what
So-
are the residents saying when they're speaking to you? Are people answering the door for you?
Yes, yeah, they're very friendly. People are thankful for us to come up to us to let them know that there's somebody's doing something about it. You know, this rental crisis, the housing crisis, you know, it's a big on people's mind. People are stressed about it. It is really, met a tenant who is leaving after 20 years, going to Putnam Valley. He's going to Putnam County. And another one is not sure what they're going to do. They're going to move farther upstate.
Understood.
But that person has the ability to have a remote job. So that's a little bit, you know, they're a little bit more free of where to go. But, you know, if we don't do something about this soon, I mean, people across the state complain that we're losing people, especially working class people, out of state. And our community fire, our volunteer fire departments, et cetera, are suffering from that.
Yeah, no, we're the town, I believe.
That's a whole other issue.
That's another
Yeah.
issue. We're sympathetic to what's going on,
Yeah,
certainly.
Well, we hope that the town board takes the
But in the
action.
future, you need to, you know, to note where you've been, so,
We do
some
know where we are, but we
documentation.
can go over it if you'd like. But,
no, that's okay. It'd be nice if you had a piece of paper where you can say, listen, we went here on this date, and we talked to 20
We have a
people
petition
here.
we have a petition that we'll present to the town board.
When?
Right now,
Okay.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I urge the town board to do something about this, because I think that, you know, renters are having a really tough time staying in their homes.
I just got to tell you, I was squeezed out of an apartment because of rent increases.
Yeah.
And it's an experience, you know, I won't forget.
Yeah.
So there needs to be, I guess we're trying to find a balance. We're just discovering and working on this, but I know we're going to do something. But, you know, you guys are one side going, do the most extreme, and there are other people I know that they've got a couple of places, they don't live in them, and you would punish them, and so there's got to be a balance here somewhere, so we got to work
Yeah.
on that.
Well, people need housing, you know, housing and if the market's failing, then we need to have robust public spending to actually, because the market's failed, the working people of the Hudson Valley. So, you know, I don't have the luxury of selling a building if I can't make it work, because whatever of new
I
laws.
understand.
So.
There's also the counter-argue that the federal government screwed around with the budget and caused interest rates rising and
Right.
also screwed up the marketplace, so there's counter-arguments, but you know, we're open to that discussion.
Well, something needs to be done. I appreciate the town board's time, and, you know, that we help tenants stay in their homes, so that we can actually have a
Thank you for
community.
coming, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am? Just tell us your name, please.
Good evening, I'm Marjorie Hetling. I live in Hudson View Park, which is in the town of Fishkill, and this group did come to my door, and I signed a petition for them. My rent went up $180 a month this year. I questioned it in the office, and I was told that it was to help bring it up to market rate. Well, that market is not good for people. I'm a retired citizen, I live on a pension and a Social Security, but my feeling is for the young people that are trying to start out today, they get out of college, they have student loans, they're not going to be at the top of the pay scale of any place, they're going to start at the bottom. I saw it with my own children. How are they ever going to afford to settle here to enrich this community?
I agree. My daughter just graduated DuPaul's earlier this year. She got a job making $44,000 a year to start. She can't afford an apartment in Hudson View Park.
If it wasn't for my children, I wouldn't be living where I am now.
Understood.
And where am I going to go if I leave here? I have family in the area. I don't want to move away.
I wouldn't want to move either. It's a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Etlin.
So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Adam?
Hello, members of the town board. My name is Adam Sendelbach. I'm a member of the Mid-Hudson Valley DSA, and I'm also a town of Fishkill resident. Today I come to you to voice my support for passing of the strongest version of good cause eviction possible. I'd like to present the town board with a petition of nearly 140 Fishkill residents who all agree to the passing of this bill. If I may, can I bring this?
Right here. Thank you, Adam.
Me and my friends at the Mid-Hudson Valley DSA have spent the past few weeks knocking on hundreds of doors in Fishkill. Some over at Glenham, some over at Rocky View Point, Fishkill Glen Road, all over. Through my time, I've heard countless stories of my fellow neighbors struggling to make it by. One man I spoke to who had lived on the top floor of his apartment complex, he had recently broken his ankle. And because of his injury, he was unable to continue to work. Traveling for him was extremely difficult, and he told me that he would love to sign the petition. However, I had come too little, too late. He told me how he was being forced to move out of his apartment, not only out of his apartment, but also from the Fishkill community altogether, because he could no longer keep up with his rent. So many of our neighbors are just one unlucky day away from having their whole lives uprooted. The adoption of this bill would be a small step in the right direction in solving the housing crisis that has plagued our country and our county. The law would help protect tenants from unjust evictions, establish a right to lease renewal, and give them the ability to negotiate down high rent hikes, creating essential housing stability that would benefit everyone in our community. However, if you choose to adopt it in its current form, it would be the weakest version of good cause in the state. I urge you to follow the example of Kingston, Albany, and Poughkeepsie, who've all defined a small landlord as owning one unit in New York State. If you do not, this bill would almost be useless because it would be open to a loophole that landlords could use to deny tenants the rights intended by the law. I also urge you to set the high luxury rent exemption threshold of 345% of fair market rent, as Kingston did, Albany, and Poughkeepsie have. A lower threshold might create a perversive incentive to raise rents. I am lucky enough to have the privilege of living with my parents till I graduate college. However, housing should not be based on luck or privilege. I would like to be able to afford to live in my own hometown of Fishkill when I'm older. I once again strongly urge you to pass the strongest version of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Mr. Steele?
Evening. John Steele, Beacon Hills, also Glenham Fire District Commissioner. Talking about downstate.
Yes, sir.
I read the article, Ozzy. I appreciate the fact the supervisor sent out an update. I'm not sure that everything that's in there is exactly as it is. Be that as it may, I read an article today in the Southern Dutchess News where the city of Beacon has not even been contacted about this. I don't know if that means, so if the city of Beacon hasn't been contacted on this, how do we know Central Hudson's been contacted on this? How do we know the school district's been talked to? We don't. We know the school district has their own concerns. As a resident, I have a lot of concerns about downstate and about the proposed development and the impact it's going to have on this town overall. As a fire district commissioner, I have serious concerns about this parcel. As you know, Ozzy, you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
That parcel, and I appreciate the fact that your email said that the developer recognizes that this does not have any fire protection right now. It's state land. The Glenham Fire District for years had the contract with downstate providing fire protection there. As the parcel, if the parcel is developed, it's not in anybody's fire district. However, Glenham Fire District borders the parcel on 3 sides, which would make Glenham the logical choice to possibly be expanded into and include this parcel if it's developed. If it's fully developed as proposed, that would lead to potentially as much as a 50% increase in the population of the Glenham Fire District. If it's developed with three-story structures immediately require ladder. Glenham Fire District does not have a ladder. Glenham Fire District would need a ladder. Any fire district coming in there would need a ladder. We would need a ladder. Ladders today are in excess of $2 million. The structure to house that would have to be built. We're talking a multi-million-dollar structure. John, Brian, and I have had a number of conversations about OSHA. If we have to modify a structure to incorporate a ladder, or build a new structure to include a ladder, that cost is going to be exceeding, that's going to be in the multi-millions of dollars because of the OSHA mandates that are going to be what should be included in that firehouse. We would have concerns about road width. What we're asking for, and the reason we're asking for this is we've had issues where, I'll give you railroad salvage as an example. Railroad salvage, the developer came to us, the developer's attorney came to us and said they wanted to put narrow roads in railroad salvage. We told them we couldn't accommodate, our trucks couldn't accommodate narrow roads. You know what they told us? Buy smaller fire trucks. That's what they told us. That was their answer. You gotta love that one. What we're asking for is a seat at the table to express our concerns. No developer has come to us. All the conversations that we've had with the town have been informal conversations. I know there's concern. I appreciate the fact that the town board has some of the same concerns about this development as we do. But if the Glenham Fire District, which would be the logical choice, is to be incorporated, or this parcel is to be incorporated into the Glenham Fire District, we're asking for a seat at the table now, not 6 months after it started, when it might be too late for us to ask for things that need to be included in the fire district. I do hope the size of the development, the structure, we all appreciate the fact and understand the fact that something's probably going to go in there. I would hope that it would be downsized. I would hope that maybe it would include some commercial, provide some jobs for people. God, that's what we need for our young people. We need jobs for them. That's how we're going to keep them in the town. But I'm asking on behalf of the fire district and as chairman of the board that we have a seat at the table now and not when it's too late.
So who would you recommend to represent the fire district?
Well, our entire board is here,
Well,
minus one.
Who would be the person that you would recommend?
It could be myself, or we could appoint somebody from the board. We have somebody who's probably very good at this, which we would have to talk to him about, but I would recommend, if I may, Mark Jr.? I think he would be an excellent, but we would have to talk to him about it if he wants to be, but we would use him as our point contact.
Okay, we can do that.
And that's what we're asking for.
Yeah, we can do that. So if he's willing to do that task, contact my office.
Excuse me?
If he's willing to do that task, I can keep him in on the future meetings that we have, and you can have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. And if for any reason he can't be at the meeting, I can attend it on his behalf.
That's fine. So give me the main contact and the secondary, and then we'll go forward with these meetings. You'll be invited.
I appreciate that.
John?
Just a question for Ozzy. Is there like a second meeting scheduled even on the horizon? Talking about early next year, or?
No,
When do you expect to hear from that?
when they get back to me, I basically ask the developer, what is the minimum amount he needs to make a profit, and if we can have more senior housing. Our concerns are traffic in the school district, and if we can push more over 55 and maybe some studios and one-bedrooms.
They gotta come back to you with another.
Yeah,
Right.
and what they wanted to do was the first thing was 375 units and then come back later. We want a complete site plan that we can agree to, not a piecemeal.
Right.
So the town attorney, can you give a little synopsis to the residents of what we did? You were there?
Sure. So there was a meeting between the supervisor and the building inspector and Conifer, who's the developer, and the Empire State Development representatives, at which the proposed redevelopment of the downstate property was discussed. And one of the first things, well, the supervisor made it clear that the proposal was not acceptable, but after that was done, The question was, to what extent is Conifer married to developing the property in accordance with the proposal that they submitted to Empire State Development? And the answer was somewhat unclear. They said we are not required to put in certainly any particular number of units. The project is supposed to be along the framework of residential with a commercial component, but the commercial component could be anything from grocery stores to mom and pop shops to, they don't have a firm plan that they're locked into. And so the conversation proceeded to what would be needed for whatever it is they may come up with in the future. And one of the things that was discussed was a necessity to change the town's comprehensive plan, which does not provide for this type of development, and the town zoning, which also does not provide for this type of development. And they discussed the possibility of a planned development district, something along those lines, and the supervisor said, what's in it for the town? Why should we change our zoning for you? And we started getting to a little bit of a give and take as to what would be more acceptable to the town. Not that anything particularly is, mind you, but, you know, if something's going to go there, what is it they're going to propose? And Conifer was told in no uncertain terms the town can't design Conifer's project for Conifer. Conifer is going to have to come back to the town with a proposal of something that might be more acceptable. In the course of the conversation, the supervisor mentioned that there is no fire district for the downstate facility.
He's right
and
on
had
that.
they thought about how they were going to provide this, and much as you said, the costs of a fire truck and so forth are very substantial. And candidly, they said they had not thought of that. And that
They
were gonna
also
have
said
to
they
look
didn't
into
think
it.
about traffic.
Well, they thought about traffic, but maybe not as deeply as we would like them to. So they are going to go back, I won't say to the drawing board, because like I say, they're married to a framework here. They're going to come back with some mix of commercial and residential, I don't know what else, but something along those lines. And they want to have further discussions with the town once they come up with some ideas as to what might be more acceptable, that might address to some extent the town's concerns. How far they'll go, we don't know. And there is no time frame for them to come back. We don't know if it's going to be 30 days or 6 months or what have you. But they are going to come back, and when they come back, I'm certain that the fire district will be able to have input on, you know, whatever it is they come back with.
Can I,
I'd also just like to mention one other thing. They've talked about the City of Beacon providing services. City of Beacon says they haven't been contacted. If they throw out the suggestion that the City of Beacon could possibly provide fire protection there, the answer to that is probably no. We've had this issue before, when the City of Beacon tried to get some sort of an agreement between the town. Ozzy, I think you knew about this, or maybe it was Rob Wacola, but we've had a number of conversations about this. There is no provision in town law right now that allows the city to cross over into a town boundary or the town to cross over into the city boundary when it involves fire protection. Mutual aid agreement is different, but actually paying for that service, there's no provision in town law that allows that. So, just something to think about.
Okay, so
could
just,
could I point out something?
yeah.
So, I mean, it's amazing to me. We went from being 100% opposed to this development and fighting it to now we're negotiating. I didn't know we took a different stance. I was in here on Friday, Ozzy, and I asked you what's going on, and you had this meeting and you didn't say anything, and then the EGOV comes out Friday night. It just feels very odd that we've taken the public position of fighting this, but now everyone's negotiating, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm a little stunned here, so.
Brian, there was no negotiation.
Well, I mean,
Mr. Gabbard,
you're talking about coming back with different plans and downsizing and.
What else are you supposed to tell them?
Mr. Gabbard, clear the record, explain to him what happened.
Ozzy told them, Supervisor Albra told them, first thing right out of the bat, that the proposed development was not acceptable to the town of Fishkill. The
I
town
agree.
of Fishkill didn't want anything to do with it. And then they said, well, what could we do? And we said, well, to what extent are you married to this plan? And they said, well, we got to keep this framework. What could we come back to you with? And we said, we can't design your project for you if you want to put something in there. And in all honesty, something's gonna go in there eventually, you gotta at least listen to what they say. They said they would come back with something else. We don't know what that something else will be, but it's not like anybody said the town would be willing to accept this many units or even the framework. It was just, we don't like it, here's our concern, what's in it for the town, and they said they'd come back with something.
And I guess as a resident, I have enormous concerns about this, traffic impact, congestion, everything. But I also have concerns after I read the Southern Dutchess news article today. And now, I don't know what kind of assurances they gave to you at the meeting, that they were going to get water and sewer from the city of Beacon, that they had already had discussions with the city of Beacon City School District. But then the mayor of the city of Beacon and the city manager says, nobody's ever talked to us.
We didn't get into sewer or water or anything like that.
So I don't know if they gave you any kind of assurances or not, but my concern is if they're coming in and not being totally honest with us in the outset, down the road, how honest are they going to be with us?
Mr. Steele, Glenham Fire District needs to contact either the supervisor or his assistant with a name, a contact name, contact information.
We'll give you that.
Saying, here's our person. That meeting might happen 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now.
Yep.
But at least it'll be on the record, and you guys will have a seat at the
We'll
table.
give you that. We will attempt between now and the next meeting, or certainly the meeting after that, to have a draft position paper of the Glenham Fire District and present that to the town so that can be included. Our starting points, but we have multiple concerns as a fire district about this, in addition to my own concerns as a resident of the town of Fishkill. And I've lived here for 38 years.
Mr. Gamba, what is the risk if the town just has an adverse position to the developer right off the bat? What could happen to the town?
Well, I'd rather not discuss that in open session, Ozzy, but it wouldn't be good.
There you go.
That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Steele.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Hello, Dee.
Diane Mochkovitz, Roselia Lane, Fishkill. Again, kudos to Carmine and the guys, because not only did they do a good job, but in that oppressive heat, working on asphalt, the temperatures they dealt with were unbelievable. Behind me somewhere is Eddie Colon. He's going to have something to say, but I just wanted to say that the food drive that he put countless hours in, you know, he doesn't get a lot of credit for that, so I just want to say, you know, he comes up here, he speaks to you guys, he tells you what's coming up, gets, you know, support from everybody. The tow truck companies that were beyond generous with monetary and food donations, it's unbelievable, especially now with, you know, kids out of school and families have no way to feed them. So that couldn't have come at a better time. But I just wanted to say that, you know, Mr. Colon back there does put a lot of time in, a lot of things that people don't see. They see him come to these meetings. I watch them on television. I don't usually bring myself in here. But he needs a little kudos to himself as well.
Yes, he does.
And then I have one other thing that I want to say, and I'm just going to say it and be done with it. But on July 19th, I read something on the Fishkill Police Department Facebook page about Chief Dorkin's retirement and that he was, resignation, excuse me, that he was leaving. And I patiently waited for something to come up on the town of Fishkill's Facebook page, at least wishing him well or saying something. And again, from me being just a person looking at this, I find that almost like a slap in the face, because Chief Dorkin did do an awful lot for this community. I'm not the only person that feels this way. A lot of people that I have spoken to feel the same way. And, you know, it would have meant something that after reading that on the police page, that some mention would have been on the town page, because I know the town was aware that that was his last day. So I just want to say that I think that that's something that really, you know, a little kudos to him, because not seeing anything on there, it really is almost disrespectful on the point of a resident looking at the town page, which I read all kinds of things on there, that it's basically like a slap in the face. And I don't think that that's deserving. He's done a lot for the community. A lot of people in the community are going to miss him. And all I can say is wish him well in his new venture. And thank you for giving me a moment to come up here. But again, I think really some mention should be on social media, wishing him well in his future. Thank you very much.
It was on my social media. It was on my social media.
I'm sure it was, but I'm saying it was on the town, on the police.
I know.
It should have been on the
I know.
page.
It should have been.
It should have been. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Eddie, the hero of the moment. And we do thank you, Eddie, because before, everybody knows, I keep saying it, before I became supervisor, 18, 20 years, I was a citizen, and I would come to these meetings. I'd be the only person, maybe another person at these meetings. And it was very rare, if it ever happened, that a citizen would be able to get up and get a response from the town board to allow events to be hosted at town hall or in front of the police station. That just didn't happen. We let that happen now, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of what you've done for the citizens of Fishkill. I appreciate it, Eddie.
Eddie, how many food drives is it now that we've done collaboratively together?
Lost count.
Yeah.
But before we get into all this food drive and how successful it went, I want to clarify one thing. And let's make it clear. Please, let's make it clear. The Fishkill Food Pantry is not and will not be a political platform. Okay? I come here with good faith, and you guys treat me with good faith and respect, the same way I treat you guys. I come here because I ask for you to participate. Why? The residents of Fishkill voted you in, and it's your duty to come out here to the community and participate. Whether you take a picture on that wall, whether you take a picture on that wall, I really don't care. I really don't care. What I care is it could not be used as a political platform. Okay? We're here to help the needy. We're not here to participate. You voting for me, you're not voting for me, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. That's out the window when we go out there.
Everybody eats food.
Okay? But not everybody wants to be out there as a politician. We're not playing politics when you out there helping me on a food drive. Please, let's get that clear, and all the residents of Fishkill, please, this is not a political platform. I thank you, and if I offended anybody on the board, please, my apologies. Okay, get into the real thing here. I'd like to thank you, Ozzy, and your board for allowing us to participate on this and giving us the permission to use the town hall parking lot for this food drive. And I hope it's not the last time. There will be many, many more. It was very, very, very successful. It was a monster that I created within a month. Before this monster, the day before, I sat down in front of my living room. My mind just went somewhere else, thinking if it's going to succeed or not. Okay, I was thinking. But then I realized it is what it is. Until that morning, when the real thing started, when I saw that the police escort, I'd like to give thanks to the police department for giving us an escort to All Balls Bosto Company, Mr. Michael Monarchy, for bringing his flatbed with food. Over $3,500 worth of food. He came into the town hall here. You guys were all present except you, because You was enjoying yourself out there. I hope you had a good time. And they escorted the flatbed back to the town, to the village. And in the food pantry, they met the Southern Dutchess News with another film company that was there. The film company was in town and the village that weekend, filming people in restaurants. They were doing a documentary. And the reason that they were filming people in restaurants, they were looking for people, families, that they were having dinners without a cell phone in their table or talking in their phone. And if they found that family, they will pay for their dinner. So get online, because I'm going to be going out there pretty soon. So the village member called me the day before and says, hey, yeah, I think this is a good idea. So she had a date with them at 1 o'clock, but then she called me again. She said, hey, it's set up for 10 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it there. They went there.
I think
Mr.
we ran
Bryan,
into-
Mr. Foreman
we ran
met
into
him
him
there.
at
Mr. Greg Messer met him there too.
We ran into him at the food pantry, right?
Yeah, did you see them over there? Greg?
I didn't. I was spending most of the morning lugging the food around, so.
Okay. Well,
I didn't have time to get pretty for TV.
so I gotta look why somebody opened all those little packages of cookies over there. So I gotta find out. I think it was you. Anyway, they went up.
I'm on a diet. Picking up.
They went up
fat guy,
there
that's
and
not
the
nice.
film inside, and they donated $1,000. And not only they donated $1,000, they brought in a van full of food. Okay? That was one. I also like to thank also Mr. Reynaldo Pastorici for your great donation. I appreciate that. And also Mr. Michael Monarchi, appreciate your donation. We collected 166 bags of food, plus the flatbed that the young man up there brought in. Sam's Club was very delighted when I told him that I needed him, Pedro, to open the doors for Mr. Monarchi at 7:30 in the morning. He says, I can't do that because I have to open up at 8. I said, well, if you want your register for a couple of $1,000 before 8 o'clock, he said, you know what he told me? What time do you want me to open the door, Eddie? So he opened it. Besides that, in total we collected $2,670. But the stories that are behind this, they are amazing stories. Becky, the town clerk, had a young kid. Killed my heart. Kid killed my heart. Next time I do a poster, he's going to be on my page. Because that kid collected 7 bags of food. A young kid. Young kid. And this food drive that I did.
He's 6 years old?
Here. 6 years old.
Wow.
6 years old. In here, in the town hall, right on the parking lot. I saw so many young kids coming in there with bags and taking pictures and smiling. And I said, that's our future. They're learning something. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. So we're closing at the end of the day. I put in things away, and I saw a truck through the window in the pantry, and I said, oh, crap, I left the door open. So I go back, and I see this muscular guy, big, with his wife, and my food pantry director is like 90 pounds wet. And another gentleman with me, he's like 80 years old. I said, well, I have to do all my training with this guy here, because this guy is muscular. So he asked, are you still doing collections? I said, yes. So I said, let me go help you in the truck. He said, no, I want to make a donation. I said, fine. So I called my director and the old man there, and he says, like a quote from the Bible, he says, last year in December, my wife and I, we were homeless with 2 kids. We living out of the hotels by Walmart. And we came here, and you guys fed us. So when I was hungry, you gave me to eat. So we walked back to the hotel, my wife and 2 kids. to put our food away. And then we walked back to ShopRite to spend $45 gift cards that you gave us. And we went back to the hotel. And because of you, we were able to have dinner for the holidays. We did not go to bed in the holidays without food. So therefore, I am here. I am here to pay back, to contribute to the community that fed me. So he went into his pocket, just like Mr. Ronaldo did. And he pulled out $500. And he says, I have to go now to pay back to all those community groups that helped me through the holidays and through hard time. So people, there are stories behind. Just because you go to the food pantry and pick up food, we don't expect you to pay back because times are hard. But when you come and you pay back something, it gives you the feeling that there's still people out there that repay back what they was given to them. And last but not least, this Sunday, past Sunday, we had the St. Mary's food drive. I'd like to give thanks to all the St. Mary's parishioners, because I was there that Saturday soaking wet, but I didn't give up. Sunday, I was sweating my hair off. I didn't give up. We collected 375 bags of food and close to $4,000 in donations. It is great. A lot of bags of food. People say a lot of money. It probably go less than a month. But thanks God, by doing this, creating this neighborhood food drive, it gives me a chance that I'm way ahead. Because for the next 3 months, I'm having a lot of food drives. And thank you, town board members, for giving me the opportunity to just open that neighborhood food drive that it just took me 3 weeks just to think and get it over with. Because I spread 450 flyers in that hot weather through whole Fishkill, the village of Fishkill and the town of Fishkill. And last but not least, on behalf of myself and the members of the food pantry, I'd like to give all my thanks to all the residents of the town of Fishkill, the village of Fishkill, and surrounding towns that came here to help us with this cause. Again, we're not going to end hunger, but we're going to put a little dot on it. Okay? So again, I thank you all, Mr. Supervisor, your staff. I thank you all for your opportunity. Becky, I really thank you for sending me that picture. It is really, really touched a lot of hearts. Yeah. And thank you for your help, because you're always there for us. And like I always be here for you and the town board. Thank you, gentlemen, lady. Thank you all. And to all the residents, thank you all for their opportunity.
Eddie, thank you. Everyone has a talent, everyone has a calling. You have spent years showing us yours. It's not just the work that you do, although that work is tiresome, it is labor intensive, it is a labor of love. I know that because I grew up as a kid volunteering at that pantry. It's located right by my church. Yeah. My mom was a volunteer there for more than a decade, and I grew up spending my summers bagging up donations. This was 20 years ago.
We still need volunteers. You want to come?
Yeah, let me see if I can take the time off the day job for that. I'd love to. But your real talent beyond that is the community that you foster when you go out in public, whether it's a town board meeting, a public event, just out and about meeting people on the street and talking to them the way that you speak with us when you're here. Because you touch people, you reach their hearts and inspire them to act in good ways. These community food drives are so successful because people like you make it easy for people to understand why it's so important to give. And when people understand why, when people understand how what they're doing is going to make a difference, they'll reach into their pockets even if they've only got a couple dollars in their pocket. They're going to give it to a cause that they know needs it more. All that we've done is offer a facility, a place that's convenient for people to come, and for those of us who have been able, you know, a little bit of upper body strength in helping move things around. To you and to all of the volunteers from the pantry who actually put the food on people's tables, you deserve all of the credit. And I would like to say that I'm very sorry to see there being any political agenda behind anything that's going on with what you do, because there's no one who can fault your intention or your actions. And I recognize that an organization that, as you were saying, can be so hard-pressed to be able to meet the needs of the people that it serves is in no position to tell someone, I really can't accept that generosity because maybe your intentions aren't very wholesome. But at the end of the day, the work that you do, regardless of what was in the mind of a person when they make a donation, regardless of whatever anyone is thinking when they are contributing, the end result is that there are senior citizens, there are families with children, there are people who we know, but we don't know that they need. There are people whose lives are being made better because of the work that you do.
Yes.
So thank you for what you do, Eddie.
I started the food pantry 4 hours, 1 day a week. 4 hours. Now I'm there 9 days a week, and the week only has 7. Okay? And there's something, my girlfriend tells me, I leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. My girlfriend tells me, what time you coming back home? When you see me coming through that door.
There you go.
Because today, you know, we just collected 827 pounds of food from Hannaford supermarkets. That was yesterday. I started collecting that, started putting that away at 11 o'clock in the morning. I didn't leave the food pantry until 3:30 in the afternoon. And amazed that you get all this food and you look at it and you say, gee, where was this food when I was growing up? I mean, where was this tomahawk steaks when I was growing up? There were no tomahawks. It was a little pork chop, you know?
Right.
And you had to split it between 8 people, so. But it's a great thing that I'm not asking for a medal. I'm not asking for a crown. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking that once in a while, people that are at home and they have something extra, you know, say, hey, we got 10 cans of soups in here. There's only 3 of us. Why don't we donate 1 to the food pantry? That's all. 1 can of food feeds a family. At least. At least. Again, thank you all.
Thank you,
And
Eddie.
may God bless.
Thank you,
God
Eddie.
bless you too.
Eddie Rodriguez from 4 Magnolia Drive. Just wondering what is the status of my pool permit. I was here 5 weeks ago and we were on the agenda.
Any update on
We've
the
ordered
litigation?
the title search. We've received the title search. We're preparing the summons and complaint. We'll be filing the court papers shortly.
That's about the fence. He's asking about the pool permit. Listen,
They're the same thing.
they're actually not.
Okay, Steve?
I don't know about the pool permit. All I know is that the fence is required for it.
Unpopular opinion, Melissa Rodriguez, 4 Magnolia Drive. I sympathize with everything going on here. The food pantry, the people that can't afford their rent, I got it all. I sympathize. Maybe the $5,000 my family paid to an attorney to fight a town that is jerking us around for 2 years could have fed a whole lot of people, couldn't it? Could have helped pay someone rent, because I know we would have given that and we would have helped. We're all sitting here clapping about people who can't eat. My husband leaves the house at 3:30 a.m. and comes home at 6:30 p.m. literally 340 days a year to afford our mortgage. So we're just those typical middle-class working their butts off people, so nobody cares about them. We can't even legally use a pool that we paid for, and you all sit up there acting like you have no idea what we're saying. You've acknowledged every single person who's come up here and clapped and done the right thing, but to us, we just keep coming here and making fools of ourselves. For 5 weeks, you haven't been able to do anything else that you haven't done for 2 years. 2 years of doing nothing. Do not give me a smug look. You do nothing. You are literally paid to do nothing. I have waited 2 years for you to get off of your ass and do something you're supposed to do. I've waited 2 years for any of you to get off of your ass and do something you're supposed to do. We pay our taxes. We do what we're supposed to do. How about you do what you're supposed to do? Or just sit back there and look like a bunch of smug idiots who aren't acknowledging somebody who, again, is doing the right thing to do. So we'll pay another attorney, and you guys will pay this attorney, which we all know is overpaid, when we could stop all of that and give it to the food pantry. I bet everybody'd be on the side of that, right? But let's not do that. Let's waste the town's money to fight people who have a fence that you don't agree with. Kudos, gentlemen. You're all doing a fucking kick-ass job. Let's go.
Next speaker, please.
Who'd they go up against, like Hitler?
Foreman.
Councilwoman.
Hello, Louise Daniele, legal resident of over 30 years. We only have these meetings once a month, and this agenda is really long, so you're going to have to bear with me on this one. I wanted to start by commenting on the end of the last meeting, where one of the items for special consideration was a renewal of our workers' comp insurance. I believe Councilmember Tatino was trying to ask what the process was on how we engaged Emery and Webb, but the thought ended there. I would just like to say once again, I don't believe that Councilmember Foreman should be involved with any insurance matters, especially since the company that we are using has changed when he came onto the board and is his friend and prior employer, Emery Webb. There was no other insurance quotes to compare to, even the one that the town used to use prior to coming on the board. Whatever he may say, it gives the appearance of a potential conflict of interest, and he should have abstained, but he didn't. He didn't even mention the relationship that he had with that company. The first item is where are the documents that go along with the discussion for apartment accessory. You should table that and add the code or changes that are being talked about so people can read it first and come and talk about it if they want. It's non-transparent to just have one-line sentences on the agenda packets. The snow ordinance law changes, I agree with Highway Superintendent Isfan. I think they're good changes, and I have many neighbors and friends who have to rotate their cars in their driveways during the winter to avoid a ticket. They will appreciate this change. You should just inform everybody how they can follow the weather or receive information from his highway department regarding when they really do need to remove the vehicles because of impending weather. The discussion for leave of a police officer, I just wanted to remind the board that when I was on the board, a different police officer requested an extension of 30 or 60 days due to some personal and family issues, and it was a big deal. HR, the chief, and the labor attorney, I thought that it should have been granted, but it was not, and that police officer had to resign. I don't see any documentation on the rules of taking leave attached to the agenda packet, but since this is in consent agenda, it's apparent it will be approved. I think it's unfair that everyone isn't treated the same. The policy should be changed now because you will be creating a precedent tonight. I think it's only fair that you ask the other police officer to contact that person and see if they would like to return to the police department. I don't have an issue granting the leave for the current request, but his memo was confusing because he said he could do work for the PD as a, quote, point of contact to control dissemination information. That would mean he still retains his shield and access to the PD equipment. This should be clarified because he's either on leave or not. I just ask that the board, chief, or acting officer in charge and HR all be fair and treat everyone the same. Discussion of officer in charge, I'm going to wait for you guys to talk about that before I say anything on it. But again, there was no documentation on the agenda packet about who's appointed or any information. Discussion of payment in lieu of 3 affordable housing units. Are you kidding? And with Toll Brothers, that's a big no. And it definitely wouldn't be in the, quote, best interest of the town, as they stated in their memo. It would be in the best interest of the developers' pockets. I know Councilmember Gadsden asked months ago about the application process for affordable housing. I believe she was told they could call or come in. How would anybody know? That's the point. The website is so outdated, I believe it has the Supervisor Pagonis's name on it, but I'm sure Ken, you can attest to that. The board should send an e-gov with the requirements needed and directions on how someone can apply to be considered for those 3 affordable units. The fact that Toll Brothers finally fixed issues they should have done decades ago should have no bearing on the town board accepting a payment in lieu of 3 remaining units. I certainly didn't agree to that when I was on the board, and I hope you won't either. Inform people about affordable housing opportunities. Now that would be in the best interest of the town. Capital plan items. I just wanted to remind council members Rye and Foreman that they both said no to spending money for a pathway around Town Hall and an expensive sword 2 years ago when we changed the budget that the supervisor had. So I would wonder why you would think it would be okay now to spend taxpayer dollars on those items, especially when one of you doesn't even pay taxes in our town. The big fundraising plan for the sword failed, and now the taxpayers should not have to end up paying for it. And Town Hall does not need a pathway. It will create liability issues and more work for the building and grounds employees during snowstorms and bad weather to clear it. $100,000 for a new boardroom dais is ridiculous. We spent money on the new chairs. If you want to update it, you should get new draperies and use the money on things that the residents can actually use. These sound like wants, not needs. You could use the money for some shade for the playground at Doug Phillips or Gearing Park. That would benefit the residents using those parks. More benches at the pickleball courts, new basketball backboards. Continue to improve upon our parks. They look great, but they can be even better. And lastly, 11 flagpoles, also ridiculous. The rec center is not the United Nations. I don't even remember a discussion about flagpoles, but if you did add that, they should be taken into the back where the war memorial area is, and just the armed force flags, not in the front of the rec center. A simple sign is still needed to say that the war memorial is a certain way with an arrow, and I'm sure that Carmine could do that in a week with probably just a few $100s. The 250th celebration, mailing a booklet to residents will be very costly. You should advise it on, advertise it on eGov and newspapers and have the people pick them up at Town Hall, Rec Center, PD, the library, the court, Fishkill, and Brinkerhoff Elementary Schools. The money you save, you can put towards whatever costs you want for the rest of the celebration, like the fireworks. The last topic is not on the agenda, but somebody else already spoke about it, and I'm sure you'll be discussing it again and again. It's the downstate correctional facility debacle. I read the eGov that the supervisor had a meeting with the state. I don't like closed doors discussions, so this is so large and affects everyone who lives in our town. I'm requesting that you don't wait until the process keeps moving forward. Instead, you invite the state representatives that you met with to come to the next meeting as an informational presentation, and invite the public to come and voice their opinions and views of what should happen there. If they don't get immediate answers, they can follow up and get back to us through the board. We all know what they want is not what the area is zoned for. So we would hope that you all stand together to represent us in unison without any shouting. Let's not wait for years to pass before people can speak. Be transparent and do it up front. We also know traffic is the reason that what they want should never happen. Let's talk about what works for the town and the taxpayers instead of the developers and contractors waiting to line their pockets at our expense. It's an insult to each one of us that our governor and her team would think that it's okay to give land to the developer when she should, but it won't happen, give the land to the town for a minimal charge. We should have the right to last refusal and build what is zoned for and possibly add green space. We are improving upon our parks. Imagine what we could create with our residents with that space. Not high-density housing that will clog 9D even more and overflow onto State Route 52, which is already a traffic nightmare. So I just ask that the meetings in the future be public and transparent. And please don't change the zoning, and do not change the comp plan, which everybody worked so hard for a few years. To change that would be an insult to all of the people that took time from their lives to create that comp plan, which I'm sure Ann will talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. How many more people want to speak? Raise their hand. We're already an hour into this. If you guys can make it quick, please. Ann, you go first.
I worked very hard on this, so I'll try and talk fast. I have actually a handout, if Becky wants to pass it over. Thank you, Becky. And my name is Ann Lagoy. I am a resident, and it came up at the last meeting that it might not be a bad idea to implement, and I followed up with an email, a comprehensive plan implementation committee. Over the course of nearly 2 years, residents of Fishkill collaborated on a review and update of the 2009 comprehensive plan. In May of 2023, the town board unanimously passed the updated comprehensive plan. Included in the document is the implementation planning outline, where 11 goals were identified with numerous objectives and strategies outlined on how to obtain those goals. Included are some of these following goals. Connect people and places, create great places for people and animals, and here's where I'm going to admittedly say I pilfered a picture off of your Facebook page because it included everybody. So I thought that was a perfect one with the sensory park. So with an eye on connecting neighborhoods, public spaces, and businesses, improving road connections, adding in extended sidewalks and other methods of travel, pursue remedies to traffic congestion and safety concerns, examine traffic patterns, create a detailed map of existing and proposed trails, sidewalks, bike lanes, and public transit routes. These were all identified in the plan. An implementation committee could assist the town in obtaining these goals. They could work with the Recreation Department and Highway Superintendent, whom I'm going to have a meeting with, to prepare a town recreation plan and/or assess the existing town of Fishkill parks and facilities. There's potential grant funding here. I know that Councilman Foreman has mentioned that several times. He and I are in agreement. Grant money, grant money, grant money. New York State has grant programs to plan for and implement streetscape, park, and recreation improvements. A committee could coordinate with New York State DOT, the county, DPW, town highway and recreation departments. They could evaluate in more detail the priority areas for sidewalks identified in the CPU, which are mentioned, and I won't go through that. Traffic improvements to improve safety and congestion was a very high priority in the CPU. A committee could make further recommendations on locations for traffic signals, streetscape improvements, crosswalks, bicycle pathways and lanes, etc. My very favorite response in the survey was one resident, sadly, but it was my favorite, was the way that we could all get around Fishkill better is if we could fly. So that I don't think is going to happen, so I think that a committee would be able to assist in that. Also, some of the goals that were identified was to promote good design of the built environment, conserve critical lands, preserve special significant environmental resources, create and enhance gateways. With an eye on fostering a distinctive, attractive community, preserving resources that are integral to the long-term health, safety, and welfare of our residents, stimulating continued private investment for private and municipal projects, create a detailed map and description of existing sewer and water districts and facilities, and again, potential grant funding. I'll skip the next section, but anybody who wants a copy of this, I can leave some here in the town, or I can certainly share it with you. An implementation committee could also assist the town in obtaining these goals by working with business organizations and community member collaboration, working with businesses and organizations to raise awareness among the community on smart growth principles and natural resource conservation efforts, suggest standards and strategies to encourage green building techniques, zoning code review and revisions. The town has many desirable resources that make sense for a diverse range of businesses. It would benefit the town and its residents to consider where and under what circumstances certain businesses would benefit the residents of Fishkill. Right now, there's great deliberation for self-storage facilities and warehouses. A committee could assist in forming some of those strategies. Sign regulations, what do we want residents to view when they come in, come through our town, visitors, how do our current regulations hold up to the desired standard? The comprehensive plan update recommends consideration of a new conservation zone to preserve significant open space and environmentally sensitive lands, including Stony Kill Education Center. Local waterfront revitalization programs, also grant funding could be looked at, identify potential critical environmental areas, identify potential stronger protections for wetlands, streams, and water resources. An implementation committee could also assist the town with these topics identified in the CPU, which include bolster communication and coordinate with the school districts when evaluating the benefits and costs of development. Redevelopment, the CPU prioritized redevelopment of abandoned and dilapidated properties. Former Texaco Research Facility, former Duchess Mall, the quarries, how do they plan to redevelop? And housing, which has been a topic tonight. A committee could review the existing code provisions for affordable housing and use some of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund monies that would have been set aside for affordable housing and make recommendations on amending or updating if necessary. A committee could look further into the county's recent housing needs assessment and local needs and suggest strategies to encourage workforce housing. And I know you're considering the supplementary domestic units. They're like a house, if they have a garage, if they want to convert it,
Accessory dwellings.
Accessory, thank you. What might that look like? And certainly a committee of volunteers would be able to do some of that research for the town. The town might take this opportunity to gather the CPU committee volunteers and reach out to new volunteers who may be interested in furthering the work outlined in the CPU. So I respectfully submit these ideas to you, and I ask that you consider forming a comprehensive plan implementation committee.
All right, so Joe, can you work with Becky and get this on the agenda for a discussion item for the next meeting? Just use this as a discussion item.
Does anyone have any questions on?
We'll discuss it at the next meeting.
Thank you.
It will be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Ronald Pistolesi, resident of Fishkill for over 50 years. The last board meeting, Mr. Cologne has a way of telling some nice stories, so I just kind of got a little story to tell you of my own, too. Last board meeting when I was here, he's like, he made a big thing out of my donation, but that was spontaneous. I came here with $700 in my pocket because I was supposed to buy a set of wheels for one of my cars off Craigslist, or I'm sorry, Facebook, that night after the meeting. But when he talked about one can of soup feeding a family, and I come from a background of food because my parents owned bakeries for over 50 years in Beacon and Newburgh. And my mom, God rest her soul, I lost her not too long ago, used to feed everybody. People would come in and they'd just feed her. They'd just feed them. She would just feed everybody. My father would freak out, but my mom fed everybody. So when Eddie was talking about can of soup feeding, a family, and my mom was in my ear, because she always told me, if you can do something for somebody, do it. If you can do something for somebody, do it. So it was spontaneous, and that's why I did what I did, and which was great. There was no politically motivated things about it like other people. But what I'm glad about is that, to me, it seemed like it started something that other people went, and even though I'm sure a lot of people realized that it was politically motivated, hence the cameras, hence the news people, they were all there taking pictures and TV programs and, police escorts. But other people donated money, like Mr. Cologne said, that afternoon also. Someone else, another business donated $1,000, which is great because at the end of the day, it feeds people, right? And it doesn't matter how it gets there, it got there. Again, tonight I came here because I did come here with a plan to donate more money because that's what I want to do. There's no politically motivated reasons, there's nothing, it's just because that's what I want to do. Because again, listening to my mom, she says, if you can do it, do it. That's really it. So tonight, I brought a check that I'd like to donate to the food pantry for $5,000.
Whoa.
I just need to know who to make it out to.
Oh, wow.
I don't need no pictures, I don't...
No, you gotta get a picture.
No, I don't need nothing. I just want to give. All I need is a pen. That's what I need, okay? I don't need cameras, I just need a pen.
Well, you call it your DNA there, because I want your DNA. You're killing me, man.
There's nothing to kill you, Eddie, about.
You see, people, this is what I'm talking about. It's not political. This is not political. This is what you call giving out of your heart.
Is that, Eddie, is that where the criticism came from for being political, was his donation?
It's a good day, come on.
That was yesterday. Let's go. I don't have any eraser for yesterday.
All right.
It's today.
Good job.
Ronaldo, outstanding. Billy, want to speak?
That's it.
Come on.
Another. All
There's two more people. Mr. Lehan. You want to speak? Okay. Friend, how you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
My name's William Laham. Most of you guys know me. I ran for political office. I lost. That's great. Now, let's get on to the reason at hand. Time is short. I'm giving myself a time limit. Okay, if you guys don't, throw me out. This is going to be really quick. Supervisor Alba, board, thank you very much for all that you've done for this town. A little more unity would be great, but sometimes contrasting voices are necessary, so all points of view can be heard. Thank you very much for that. I know that friendships with a number of you people means a great deal to me, and I'm very glad that you are all here and that you've allowed the new Fishkill, which is what I call it, from the older regimes, not particularly anyone, but the older regimes, where a voice was not given to us. Thank you very much to each and every one of you. That's 34 years as a Fishkill resident, over 60 of family residencies here. Now, to the point why I wanted to come up is, one, the Merrick Boulevard thing. When you guys discussed it, the load limits on it, I think it's a great idea. I know many people that lived in there. When I was running for office, I got to meet literally a couple hundred, as you know. One of the other reasons they're worried about in there is the racing of the vehicles, like we find on 9 on Saturday night, Friday night, etc. Some type of sign, something to, and I know you have a traffic enforcement officer now, to make sure that the signs that are put up as far as the load limit is, perhaps at the same time, in the efforts of saving money and redundancy, putting up signs, speed limits to be strictly enforced. To keep these people safe. I don't live there. I don't have any relatives that I know of that live there, but after having worked that area during the campaign season, I found that that is a major concern, especially after the death of a particular individual that occurred there horrifically. So that's it for that, bingo. Downstate. I've fought a lot of development here. I think that it's very important to have progress, to have development, but as most people have already said, that land there, it's zoned for what, 1 acre parcels?
88 units.
80 units, not thousands of units. I've spoken to you personally, and I know that you have I won't say what you think, but I know that you have the interest of the town at heart, as do the board members. So what I'd like to do is, if we could look at this, and I don't know if it's feasible, people well beyond my capacity will know, is it feasible to look at this from another action? Instead of playing checks with these people, or checkers forever, they take a move, you make a move, they make a move, you make a move, can we just blanketly somehow ensure that that land either is zoned in some facets partially historic, or look at it from a zoning point of view, that no, we are not going to change zoning on any of that, that it's going to remain just as it is? We can adjust later, but if we don't open the door for them to come in and play these games and destroy our water system, destroy our education system, destroy our emergency response systems, destroy our fire department, ruin the historic, magnificent historic tradition of the town of Fishkill, if we don't give them the door to come in, they can't stomp all over us. I watched this in New York politics, New York City politics, as you know. I've got 30 years I was over there. This is not a game you can win if you're playing against a governor and the state. The only way to win is don't play their game. So with that being said, I thank you all. You all know what the problems are, besides the congestion, the silliness of, if they're in an F pattern already, it's the worst pattern in the world to be in. It can't get worse. That's insane. And I was told that by people when I complained about the patterns of traffic in certain areas.
Yeah.
So just because you're in the most horrendous situation that you could be in, doesn't mean it can't get worse.
Nope.
So thank you all. That's it. I'm done. I'm shutting up.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Thank you for coming by. Another councilwoman tonight. That's it. Nobody else after Kenya.
So good evening, Kenya Gadsden, resident taxpayer. So first, I just want to say that this is a long meeting, and I think maybe we probably should reconsider that one meeting probably isn't sufficient if the agenda is going to get packed in this manner, to allow people the time to share and share comfortably and with understanding is what I want to say. So when it comes to housing here, a few meetings ago, I came before you asking you for the process to gain access to the excess apartments or living quarters that people who may qualify can gain access to. I have spent all of that time up until now trying to gain access. I cannot gain access. I've had other people call here to speak to the person who should be, or two people that should be able to answer the phone and answer questions, not accessible. Going on the website, it still lists underneath there. I don't know if it's an historical moment or a shout out, but Joan Pagonis is still there. There is no return of your phone call at all. And here we are on the agenda, getting ready to allow possibly them to buy back 3 apartments that people who are struggling could possibly qualify for. So what I want to know is why at the meeting that I attended it stated here, hey, put it on the website so people can have access. It didn't get there. It's still not there. And so therefore, these 3 apartments, I think you guys should really think about it. They should not be given back. They should be held. Somebody tonight should be able to call somebody, give me that number, and I'll do my own footwork. I'll get the information out to the people in the community. But if you decide tonight to allow them to take these 3 apartments back, then you guys are speaking out of both ends of the system. And that to me is sad. It is sad that young people come before you to express what is an age-old process problem that was created by politics here in Fishkill. The fact that housing did not go from people, from builders to people, and it continued to be bought back, it lands us in the present situation. So when I sat where the council members are sitting now, housing was important to me. Where I sit now, where I have friends calling me, telling me last year they upped my rent in an apartment complex in Fishkill, $700. Working family, children, college. Guess what they did to them this year? Upped it another $700. And so that family, which is a working family, had to move from here. They could not afford it. And so when you have young people dealing with seniors, and all of you who follow the real list of what I did when I served there knows that seniors are very important to me. The seniors getting up their rent $50 is instrumental in the difference between cat food, medication, and food. That's what it is. It may not be none of our realities here, but that is their reality. And so the fact that this is on the agenda and no one took the opportunity to ensure that the information gets out to the community is saddening to me. Because we sit up here and we boast about who's this person and this person's great and they did a great job. Do the work of the people. When Eddie speaks to it being not political, those people doing the work are not on camera. They're not in your local newspaper. They're not looking for that kind of accommodation or pat on their back. I'm struggling, people. I'm asking y'all, all of y'all, including you, Mr. Gaba there, please, let's do what the people really need, and it is not to give these apartments away. So it is my hope, and I'm gonna stay here all night, that somebody gives me the phone number to somebody so I can reach them, or give them my number so they can reach me by tomorrow, because I want to see what these 3 apartments cost. I want to see if I know people. I want to see how we can connect them. And I think an opportunity needs to be given for people to have the time and space to apply for them if they're readily available. And these young people should not be badgered, they should not be interrogated, they should not be questioned about their actions, because the seniors in your own community are struggling. They are. That lady said $145. I'm talking $700 for somebody who's working every day. So when you're not working, $145 is like $1 million when your money is limited. We have to learn to do the work of the people and then let the people see your work and see your worth and then put you back in that spot. Okay? That's my thing on that. When it comes to fairness, I'm going to tell you that this community, unfortunately, from what I learned from it and sitting where you guys sit, it hasn't been so fair. It's been driven by one political party for many, many years. And so therefore, myself and Councilmember Daniele, we sat down and we looked at fairness. We looked at raises across the board for the town. We looked at how to build equality across the town to ensure that these raises are given out in a manner which is appropriate and fair and equitable, and it means something, it means something, right? We did that. It didn't go anywhere. Then we looked at how the toll was being run. And so created was policy. Gentlemen, please, take a look at the policy. You have people coming before this podium, and sometimes I think that it is driven based on who likes who. Fortunately for me, I do know Renato. I do know him. And I do know NTC, because he's done, before I knew who he was here, he's done a lot of work on cars that my family has. So there is no bias in my behavior when it comes to that. But if the rules stipulate, and they were created, that we took away 2 and we added 2, and now we have 4 and we can have up to 6, those people that were coming before this board when myself and Councilmember Daniele were trying to make it what it was talking about food being taken out of their children's mouths and their families are going to be suffering. It was a whole spiel. Where are they today? All of that noise quieted down. And now what you have again now is pitting people against people, because if I like this person, I'm going to advocate for them. And if I like this person, I'm going to advocate for them. But the rules are there. If we guide and we lead by the rules and regulations that have been established, you won't be worrying about who's pressuring you to pass the vote. You won't be worried about who's pressuring you not to pass the vote, because when you pass it, you'll be passing it based on the evidence, the black and white, and not whether or not somebody likes this company versus that company. So please, again, you have this on for resolution. Some people, unfortunately, I'm not going to shout them out, but promise people stuff. That's why those people are coming from Fishkill. People promise them, if I get in, this is what you get. That's crazy talk. But they didn't come here to blow people up on that, but that is the reality. And so other people are feeling the same way. So we have to not govern this way. This doesn't help a productive Fishkill. This doesn't. This makes it really bad for all of you, and it makes it worse for all of us. So I'm asking you guys, I don't know if that resolution should go through. I think it should remain a discussion until all of you have very worried yourself about what the guidelines are based on the tow. That's what I would ask you. As it relates to downstate, I would like a seat at that table as well. Because as somebody who is in the midst of seniors, senior housing, people in the community, young families who are struggling, this is my day. I spend most of my days when Eddie gets 400 packages of diapers or whatever, they go deliver to my house. And from my house, me and my family distribute those out to the community. That is to save those people dollars that can make sense somewhere else in their life. So now we're talking about housing, we're talking about traffic, we're talking about a whole lot of things that can impact the people that currently live here and impact those trying to come in. Because you know there's always opposition to stuff. So I'm asking for a seat there. And then I'm asking that when you guys do the 250th anniversary, I would like to be a part of that somehow. So please consider me. So I thank you for your time. I hope that you have not blocked out what I said because you may not like who I am, but I want you to understand that God sees your heart and he also sees your actions. And when those two things don't line up, things for you won't line up either. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaston. Okay, next up is liaison member reports. Brian, you got anything?
Yeah. Speaking of the food pantry, on Saturday, July 13th, I think we all were there, except Ozzy, you're out of town. It was a great event and a great occasion for raising awareness again, but also a lot of food, and that was magnificent to be a part of it. Just anecdotally, the vets had a good meeting from what I understand on July 18th and using the police community room, so I'm glad that that's available for them when they are doing that. I had an opportunity to do a ride-along with Blaze Gorsuch. I never pronounce his last name correct. He's a police officer. He's our new traffic cop, and I was proud to create that position. And he's a great guy with a great deal of skill set. Came from New York City, retired, and did traffic work citywide. So he brings a lot of skill, and he's a very community-minded, very sensitive individual as well, and he's a great asset. Aside from that, yes, we did meet with the Glenham Fire District just recently to talk about all their issues concerning downstate and that development, and they are real, and that's just one aspect of it. You know, we're going to need to expand our police force and just a lot of different things going on. So we're all I'm very concerned about that whole thing, and I certainly agree with the remark of, why, thank you, Governor, for coming into our town and telling us what to do. I just don't really appreciate that. And so it just creates a lot of anxiety and angst, and, you know, and we have to live with that. And hopefully the outcome is slants our way. I have to say that, two last things. I'm very proud of our cadets. I got an email from Detective Bentley asking him about the 2024 Cadet Police Academy, where we attended. The academy was held in Westfield State University in Massachusetts, July 14th to 20th. This is a boot camp style academy with 300 cadets from New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. This year, 4 of our cadets participated: Lucas Sicca, Jason Mendez, Michael Tuplanage, I hope I pronounced that correct, and Jessica Testa. All four graduated, and Jessica was awarded the Academy's Director's Award, which is their top award. She also became the first Fishkill cadet to do so. And so Detective Bentley would like to be on the agenda for September 4 meeting so he can present their awards here at the next town board meeting. So if we could do that, that would be terrific. Lastly, we almost had a national night out, but it was canceled because we almost had a huge storm. And therefore, the trucks that have been on the lawn out there would have dug it up, but that passed to the south of us, so we'll just have to have a bigger and better national night out next year. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Foreman?
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I know we are running late here tonight. A couple things. One, I had an opportunity to meet with Joe Clark, who is our officer in charge at the police department. And I met with him for about 45 minutes, and I thought we had a pretty good conversation, kind of an introductory meeting, because I didn't really know who Mr. Clark was. Number two, Brian and I met with a resident in Dutchess Park who has major issues with speeding in Dutchess Park. So we asked the officer if he could identify some areas where they could put some speed limit signs up in and around that area. And then we could sit down with Carmine and see if we could get some signs. But other than that, I just want to thank our departure of our chief, Keith Dworkin, from our police department. He was in my opinion, a great leader for the town, and he'll be missed. And good luck to him in the village of Millbrook. That's all.
Thank you, John. Councilman Totino?
I will likewise be brief, so as not to repeat what has been said. Just want to give a big tip of the cap to the village of Fishkill for the annual 4th of July ceremony that was held. It was great to be there and hear a reading of the Declaration of Independence from Judge Rosenblatt. It was fantastic because it wasn't just a reading of the Declaration, but also a bit of a history lesson for people who maybe don't know the story of how it was drafted, how it was adopted, and the various processes and a lot of the legalese that it contains. It was also very rewarding for myself to meet Judge Rosenblatt, because he is one of few jurists remaining who was a colleague of my grandfather, who was a New York State Supreme Court judge in the 1980s down in Westchester. So to be able to meet someone who said, "Oh, you're Ted Dockenhausen's grandson?" Oh, yes, I am. And that was a really unique experience to hear stories about a man who I never met, who passed away before I was born. Just lastly, do want to give a tip of the cap as well to Adam Sundelbach, Eagle Scout. Many of you, if you've seen our town board meetings, know that we love to present certificates to Eagle Scouts from the town of Fishkill, especially if their Eagle projects take place in the town of Fishkill and serve our community. Adam is very intelligent, well-spoken, upstanding young man, off to college. I believe he's one of our recreation employees this summer. And to see young people engaged in social matters is very encouraging. I was engaged as a youth myself. Odd to look at someone college age and realize that I'm almost twice that old now. I can only imagine what it will be like for me, when I'm twice as old as I am today. But I do just want to say that while it is not on our agenda this evening, I look forward to continuing to work with the board as we talk about matters of good cause eviction. I know that, like myself, Councilman Foreman does not own his home, he rents it. I go to sleep every night and wake up every day grateful for the fact that I have a fantastic landlady who owns the home that I rent in the same HOA that I grew up in. I have a roommate who's one of my best friends from when I was a kid. Our landlady cares about her asset, and her asset is her home. So there's never an issue with maintenance. There's never a question of price gouging. She's not there to profiteer off of the property. She simply wants to make sure that it is being put to use in a way that is beneficial both to the people who are renting it to the long-term value of her property, and, which in some way does put some money back in her pocket. I think that if we had a market where every landlord operated by those tenets, we wouldn't be having a conversation about good cause eviction. But what I would just ask my fellow council members to bear in mind as we move forward in the future is to consider the type of workplace protections which exist for employees at various different levels. Well, of course, for civil servants, there are different types of protections in place. For instance, you can't be fired for no reason at a lot of jobs in our country, especially those where there may be unions involved or civil service in place. One of the tenets of good cause eviction is essentially the same argument that you just can't throw someone out without a reason for doing so. Likewise, there are laws established regarding how much an individual or a workforce will be paid. There can be regulations in place to see to the sustainable rate of rent, to help it try to match in some way the rate at which wages increase, because I think we all recognize now that things are getting more expensive, but our paychecks are not getting larger, by and large, at the same rate. The last thought is the notion, again, with workplace protections. There are a lot of laws in place protecting whistleblowers, protecting people from retaliation in the workplace. Part of good cause, again, or tenant protections could be the simple thought that if a tenant has an infrastructure issue within their dwelling unit, if it's a question of faulty plumbing, electrical issues, other things that are impacting their quality of life that would potentially be in violation of the lease on the part of the landlord, some sort of principle, some sort of protection in place to prevent that tenant who is complaining about issues with their unit from potentially facing retaliation or retribution, or simply being tossed out of their home so that they can rent it to someone who will keep their mouth shut. These are not radical ideas. And when we think about how these principles apply in other aspects of life, I do hope that my fellow council members will agree that action must be taken. We can discuss the specific parameters, and we can rely on guidance from Mr. Gaba, but I do look forward to continuing those discussions with you all as we move forward. And I thank everyone who came to speak tonight, because rent and housing is very important, and we are reaching an inflection point where I don't know if any of us are really confident in the market at this point.
Okay, you're done?
I'm done.
Thank you, Greg. All right, let's go to presentations. The first one will be a presentation of the audited financial statement for the year ending December 31st, 2023, the EFRP Group. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Good evening, everyone. Supervisor, board members. Again, I'm Doug Zimmerman, partner with the EFPR Group, and I did pass out a couple-page handout with some highlights of the results of the audit. And I know several people have said, the meeting's gone long, so I will go through this as quickly as I can.
No, the meeting is not long. My other supervisors have meetings, they don't end until about 12 o'clock. And the residents of Fishkill were able to speak for about an hour and a half uninterrupted.
I can talk for an hour if that's what you want.
No,
so.
but don't worry about the time. It's not bad. It looks like a lot of good news in here.
It is, absolutely. And unfortunately, I have to pull these out nowadays, so. So again, we did an audit of the financial statements of the town for the year ended December 31st of 2023. There was actually 3 reports that we list there that we have issued. It's the financial statements of the town. And for those of you that haven't looked at them recently, it's some 65 pages of information between what's called management's discussion and analysis, the base financial statements, various notes to the financial statements. So it is a very comprehensive and detailed document reporting on the town's financial condition. We also do a small audit on the town justice court, and there is another report that we issued with regards to required communication between an audit firm and the governing body. And just so you know, there was nothing in that report that the board would have to be concerned with. It was all the allowed boilerplate language, that everything was according to plan. We have reviewed everything in detail with management. We issued what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion. There were no exceptions noted in appropriation of the accounting records that deviated from what's called general accepted accounting principles. Management was a pleasure to work with. Sharon and the entire team in the finance department provided us everything that we requested on a very timely basis. When we plan an audit, we develop what we call an audit plan, and we're certainly happy to report back that there were no need to deviate from that plan. There was nothing that we saw that was unexpected, no surprises, if you will. It was, a lack of a better word, a very routine audit, and I like nothing better than be able to present those types of results to our clients. The financial statements really have two components. There are what they call the town-wide or full accrual financial statements, meaning that all your liabilities, all your assets, all your fixed assets are on those. And then there are more fund financial statements, which is really what drives the budget and what taxpayers generally think of as your general fund and the various funds. So in this presentation, I'm just going to cover a few of the highlights on both of those sections of the financial statements. On the town-wide financial statements, again, those are the full accrual, including all of your liabilities. And in there, two big drivers of those financial statements are, quite frankly, a lot of things that the town doesn't have a lot of control over, that being the pension system. You are participants in the state pension system, so you just get a bill from Albany. You really don't have any say in anything related to that. And also what we call OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, which is retiree health insurance, and certainly you don't have a lot of ability to guide those numbers as they're dictated based on market trends in health insurance and everything of that nature. So there would be vast differences between a full accrual and the fund statements. But on the full accrual side, your ending net position amounted to $32.2 million at December 31st of 23, and that was an increase of $2.8 million over the prior year. Revenue had gone up 1.4 million, or 7.2% to $20.3 million, and there was increases in sales tax distributions from Dutchess County of $1 million, an increase in interest income. Obviously, everyone's aware of the rates have increased over the last year or so. That was partially offset by a decrease in charges for $422,000 from a decrease in sewer charges. On the expenditure side, there was an increase of $1.7 million, or 10.9% to $17.5 million, primarily from actuarial determined charges, and again related to those two things I just mentioned, the pension and the OPEB. The chart on the bottom gives you the fund balances within the governmental funds, or the fund financial statements, and that's really where most of the focus usually is with the municipalities in New York State. So your general fund had a small decrease from $5,176,000 last year to $5,127,000 in the current year, so a $48,000 decrease. The town outside of the village is up to $9,071,000 at the end of this year versus $6,583,000 last year, so that actually increased almost $2.5 million. The special districts was a decrease there. You ended the year at $3.4 million versus almost $4 million last year. Your capital projects fund, and that can obviously change dramatically from one year to the next based on the status of those projects, but that had a deficit balance the current year of $387,000 versus a positive balance last year of $214,000, and again, that can vary from year to year based on the timing of bonding and the flow of funds coming in, so that certainly is not a concern, the fact that you see that change there and have the negative number at the end of 23. The highway fund increased by $417,000 to $3,676,000 fund balance, and then the non-major funds had a small decrease from 1.512 last year to $1,476,000. On the second page, we just cover each of those fund areas and just some of the changes that had occurred. Again, the general fund had that $49,000 decrease. Revenue in that fund increased $265,000, or 6.2%, excuse me, to $4.5 million, as a decrease in state aid related to mortgage taxes was offset by an increase in your property taxes, and again, the interest income. And then expenditures increased $10,000, or 0.2% to $4.2 million. On the town outside of the village saw an increase of $2.5 million, or 37.8% in fund balance. Revenue increased $1.2 million to $6.6, primarily from sales tax distributions. And then on the expenditure side, there was an increase of $276,000 to $4.1 million, primarily related to vehicle purchases. The special districts saw a decrease of $508,000, or 12.8% in fund balance. Revenue decreased $208,000 to $4.8 million as a result, again, to the decrease in the sewer charges. And then expenditures increased by $212,000 to $5.3 million due to increased contractual costs. Capital project funds saw a decrease of $602,000 in the fund balance. Revenue increased $63,000 to $77,000 from state aid and interest income, and in expenditures for the various improvements increased $328,000 to $484,000. The highway fund saw an increase of $418,000 in fund balance. Revenue amounted to $3.6 million, which was consistent with the prior year, and expenditures decreased by $307,000 to $3.2 million, primarily due to less equipment and supply purchases. And then finally, the non-major fund saw a decrease of $35,000 in fund balance. Revenue had increased $126,000 to $756,000 from increased programs for the aging and recreational charges, and expenditures increased by $313,000 to just over $1 million, primarily from increased expenditures for recreational and parkland activities. Again, it's a very high-level overview of some 65 pages of financial statements, but the key takeaways that I want to stress again is it's a clean opinion. The accounting records were not only presented us, in an orderly fashion, but quite frankly, they're maintained orderly throughout the year. That's the only way we're able to do with the audit, and deliver the results that you see here today. And I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
If the town prepared to spend, let's say, $400,000 to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, what would be the impact on this in 3 years when we did it after 2026?
Well, I mean, primarily that comes out of your general fund. So you can see on the bottom of the first page there, you've got a very healthy general fund balance, over $5 million. So it's certainly not an insignificant amount of money, but in relationship to the finances of the town, it's not, like that's your entire fund balance that you're going to chew up and expend. I mean, we do some 200 municipalities across the state, and you are certainly at the top tier of health as far as your financial statements go. We've got some that they couldn't even consider spending that kind of money because it's just not sitting there in reserves or in fund balance.
So we can afford to do it comfortably.
You can certainly afford to expend, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 without any type of significant impact on the financial statements of the town.
I know what you're doing.
I am here to merely report back the information. Certainly, if the economy goes terrible over the next couple of years, these financial statements, you are highly dependent on taxes and sales tax revenue and everything else. So certainly, financials can go down quickly. They can go up based on the economics. But presently, the way things stand, you're in a very healthy situation.
Would you say, I'm sorry, John.
Go ahead.
Do you work much with our outgoing comptroller? Have you worked a lot with her in the past?
I mean, I have an entire team that works on this audit, so I myself personally have not had, day-to-day interactions with Sharon. Certainly, our team has, and like I mentioned, everything that we ever asked for is very timely received, and I know she's in semi-retirement mode right now, and we're certainly going to miss her in future engagements.
And I'm looking for that because we're all going to miss her. God bless you, Sharon, for all your great work.
And for the residents, that's well-deserved. She retired in January, and she's still helping us.
Yes.
It took us almost 7 months to find a controller, and she's been there standing with the town of Fishkill. And on behalf of the residents of Fishkill, Sharon, thank you very much.
Yes.
That's how hard she is to replace. That's how hard she is to replace. And there's not many people, I can tell you, that are hard to replace in this town. That would be one of them.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here tonight. Quick question, town outside the village. So we had an increase of $2.4 million from a year ago. Is that like normal? To me, it sounds like really, really high.
Well, you can see that the fund balance is up to over $9 million now. So it certainly didn't grow that way at $50,000 a year. So that is high, but is not unreasonable in light of the recent history of that fund. Because the only way you'd get to
Yeah, a lot of the sales tax.
Sharon, just for clarification for those who don't understand, I remember from Supervisor Albert's first years, when you and the supervisor have been calculating budgetary amounts, you tend to make as conservative an estimation of anticipated sales tax revenue as possible so that we wouldn't potentially run into a situation where we're dealing with a revenue shortfall. So is this the product of that very conservative estimation and then the revenue far exceeding that baseline?
Yeah, during COVID, right, we didn't know what the sales tax revenue would be, and it ended up to be way more. And then the county changed their contract for sales tax, and we had a big bump in our revenue for sales tax.
And that was the benefit of the town of Fishkill staying open safely,
Exactly.
keep business going, and the town benefited from the controller's work and the employees working, keeping open.
Yeah, I
And
try not
this
to
is-
think
this
about
is a
the
benefit.
COVID
Well,
anymore,
it's-
but.
COVID caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but the town of Fishkill was secure because of the hard work of our controller and our employees, and that's why we're in this good position today.
Absolutely. And, that is exactly what was mentioned, that you certainly want to be conservative in estimating sales tax revenue because it's better to have that rainy day fund available rather than have that shortfall because you were more aggressive in the estimates. So certainly that does factor into the budgetary process.
The balance, though, is you don't want to be so conservative where we have to ask the property taxpayers to pay more money. So there's a balance.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But you're in a good situation where you've got a healthy fund balance now, and you can, if you elect, and I'm certainly not here to guide how you do your budget, but you certainly have an available resource there for future budgetary years.
So if I told you within a decade, the town of Fishkill has about $150 million in revenue for residential properties and another $150 million coming in for commercial, what would your thought be about that?
You mean on the property tax side?
Let's say that the town of Fishkill is on pace to have another $150 million of taxable revenue for residential homes and another $150 million for commercial development. What would your opinion be on that?
Above what you're currently at,
Yes.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, certainly that gives you a lot of latitude on the expenditure side, because, ideally, towns zero-based budget, so that additional projected revenue should result in a corresponding increase in your expenditure side, and obviously it's up to the town board with guidance from the taxpayers as to how to enhance those benefits across the town's expenditures.
So with that kind of money, you can see us getting healthier.
I mean, you're already healthy, but you can certainly increase the services provided to the community, be it policing, be it fire protection that was talked about, be it parks that was mentioned. Because at the end of the day, that increased revenue should not be going into fund balance, because it's not like you're working from a deficit position currently.
Any other questions, board members? Anybody from the audience have a question? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Next up.
Safe travels back to Williamsville.
Thank you very much for coming. Michelle? Kate?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Michelle Franks, and I'm the Southern Dutchess Community Coalition Coordinator, working in conjunction with the Council on Addiction Prevention and Education. So just a brief history, the coalition has been in existence for 20 years, unfortunately remained unfunded for the last decade, until last year when we received state funds through the opioid settlement funds. The purpose of this 4-year grant is to address the fentanyl, opioid, and prescription drug epidemic in Dutchess County. For those of you who are unaware, outside of New York City, Dutchess County has the second highest overdose death rate than any other county in New York State. Last year in 2023, it was reported that there were over 300 reported cases of Narcan that were administered to community members who suffered an overdose. Of those 300 plus cases, 111 were fatal. So the goal is to not just to address the epidemic, but to bring long-term sustainable environmental change to this community. So this could look like many things, from educating our youth on making responsible decisions to empower healthy lifestyles, to educating seniors on safe medication disposal and storage. Some of the efforts that are required by the grant include Narcan training in the community, providing take-back days, community events where community members can come in and safely dispose of medications, distribution of drug lock bags, and drug destruction kits. More importantly of these initiatives is to recognize that this is not just a one-sided conversation, that while we have the resources and the support, it's up to us to hear from everybody in the community. So my goal as Community Coalition Coordinator is to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table, everybody's voices are heard, and that everybody feels like they have a stake in the game. In the world of prevention, it's often said that the opposite of addiction isn't treatment, it's connection. So it's our goal to provide insight and support to those who need it. So I come here today to ask for your not only support, but to allow everybody in this community to have a seat at the table and be a member of the coalition. In addition, I know that this is not a one-sided conversation, that we're not just asking for your support. We're not only here to provide resources, but we're here to support the current initiatives in the town of Fishkill. Whether it's tabling at an event or providing volunteer support at the food pantry, the coalition is here to foster that growth. I thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the continued conversations, and I look forward to continued collaborations.
Thank you for your
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming. We appreciate that.
Thank
That
you.
was,
Thank
that was
you.
something.
Does anyone have any questions?
Dutchess has more, the second most after New York City? That's amazing.
Isn't that frightening?
Yeah.
It's frightening. That's a good word for that one.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes, that's frightening.
So how, just real quickly, and not taking a lot of time here,
Sure.
but you've done what so far in the town since you've been on board and you've received these monies? And then, I mean, how is it that your resources, how do we tap into that? I don't know.
So it's important to remember that all the resources we provide are of no cost to the taxpayers. Everything is completely free. So far, we provided Narcan training to local business owners. Our goal is to get to as many bartenders and servers as possible. We're finding that that's where we're hearing where a lot of these overdoses are happening. Providing support in the schools. We already have a school-based counselor in John Jay High School. I think the importance of getting to more people and realizing that the biggest barrier to the work we do is it's stigma, making sure that people, again, understand that this is a public health issue. We do also have listening sessions once a month. We provide insights and resources in terms of where they can provide inpatient, outpatient. So if we have somebody who's looking to go into treatment, if we have somebody who is in an active stage of recovery that's just looking for peer support, we provide that as well. But again, we found that some of the best ideas we have come from people who don't really work in the field of harm reduction. So again, I know that Fishkill is a town of great resources, and the more people we can bring in, I'm here at, again, if there's anything that the community members need, I'm here at the disposal. Happy to leave my business cards, and again, it's a 4-year grant. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm confident that the collaboration is going to lead to greater things.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Patty.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your hard work. All right, okay. Next up is going to be discussion on accessory apartment buildings. We tabled that, right? Okay. When until December?
December, second meeting in December, I believe.
And we'll be able to have something that we can work on from there?
I've given you a memo on.
I saw the memo, but something in addition, or where we can do a public
I've given
hearing?
a draft law that I could do a resolution on, if you want to wait that long for it.
So how long would it take you to move on it? Maybe we could move it up forward, to November?
Draft law is done, you can have it for next month if you want it.
Okay, let's do it next month. Can we do this, can you give me a
The
discussion?
board hasn't had a really discussion on it, though.
How about a discussion?
Want to put it on for discussion and then next month or do you want, I don't know.
What do you guys
Let's
think?
just discussion in September.
Discussion?
Well, we do have 2 meetings next month, do we not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can discuss it at the first one and then introduce it at the second. Provided, of course, that our preliminary discussion doesn't result in need for major revisions.
So, number 1, can we just table it to the next meeting, please? What day is the next meeting? September 4?
September 4.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next up, discussion of updating the law for snow ordinance parking. The highway superintendent had a great idea about updating this.
Yeah.
It's snowing maybe 2-3 times a year, and people are parking their cars, and people have complained. And he wants to give a notice, just a reminder to the town of Fishkill residents, the snow ordinance, which was adopted in 1982, will be enforced from November 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. Winter season will be enforced during the morning hours of 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. Prevailing times, any other period the town board deems necessary shall be unlawful for anybody to park on the street. I guess we're looking to move this into when it snows.
I discussed this with Carmine, and I think it's a great idea, because, I mean, I think we're all in agreement. Why am I going to get a ticket if it isn't snowed all month, you know, and I might, you know, need to leave the car out on the street? So I was saying to him that, you know, it would be good to be able to blast out, and I'm sure he will, and supervisor probably coordinate with eGov, like, and we're anticipating snow, so this, you know, get the cars off the street, you know, give people a heads up. But I think that this is extremely reasonable, what he's discussing.
Do we have to do a public hearing for this one?
Yeah, I'm afraid you need a local law for it. I talked with Carmine. The local law itself is actually pretty easy to draft.
Okay.
You could have that for the next meeting if you want. The issue, and I'm sure you've all spoken with the highway superintendent, is that you need to make sure people are aware of when a snow event is going to occur, so that they know to get their vehicles off the roadway, because they could be towed otherwise. There are a lot of things you could do besides posting it on your website. You have your e-blasts already. And,
Yeah, that's what I just said.
And I think once people understand that that's the rule, residents understand it,
Okay.
going forward, they'll know that that's the rule.
They just want to know when it's going to be enforced.
When you got to move the car?
Yeah.
So let's prepare, we discussed it, how about a resolution to set the public hearing? Is that too much for the next meeting?
No, I can get that done.
So this was discussion, so can we move it, no more discussion, we're going to create a resolution
Resolution, oh, you have a local law and a resolution setting a public hearing on it.
for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gaba. Thank you. Okay. Number 3, discussion of placement of weight limit signage on the town portion of Murray Boulevard. The trucks are coming off 84 and taking that as a shortcut. The highway superintendent would like to put weight limit signs. I think it's a good idea. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I actually talked to him about this and said, you know, how are we going to prevent trucks from coming through when you just have a sign? So I was suggesting that, you know, we have a weight limit, we have a sign that indicates they will start being enforced at X times, so these truckers, you know, are reasonably notified that this is coming down. But also on the sign, I think it should have a pretty dramatic notification for what you will be fined if you are caught driving through this area. I suggested to him, and this is for our discussion, but $250 for the first offense if you're an 18-wheeler and you're not supposed to drive through, and maybe double that for every time thereafter. I just feel like, you know, in order to get people to stop using that, things have got to have some teeth.
Can you prepare a resolution to do that?
I actually spoke with Carmine about this today, as a matter of fact, and Carmine Esteban, the highway superintendent. And he said that he has some issues that he's trying to work out regarding the weight limit that he wants.
Okay.
There's also an issue regarding placement of the signs on Merritt. You may be in a position where you need to ask the village if you can use some village property to place the sign further down, so you don't want trucks driving up it. And as Brian points out, there's some questions about the language that you want on the sign. So I think you'll have a memo from the Superintendent Esteban for next month, and I would put it on for discussion then. And if you're happy with what's being proposed, we can prepare a local law and go from there.
You're talking can carry this on till?
September. Carry it over to the first meeting in September, and then hopefully by the second meeting in September, we can have a law prepared.
You think it'll be ready by the first meeting in September?
I can draw it up, I just don't know if it's going to have everything you want now.
All right, so first meeting is September 4th. Thank you. Number 4.
Is gone.
Okay. Number 5. Discussion of modernization of billboard signs. The town will have discussion on the town's policy regarding electrical signage. There was 2 signs placed up on Route 9, south of the Old Duchess Mall. I kind of like them. Other people might not like them. There's about 5 south of town, going to Beacon on this way in Town Hall, and there's probably a couple houses, and there's maybe 4 up in Duchess Park. What are you guys' thoughts about these things?
Well, I mean, I brought it up because, I mean, I was surprised. I didn't know that we allowed those, and I know you explained that there is a capability for those signs. I don't have a problem where those are located. It's just that there may be some areas where they may be allowed that we really don't want it, you know, it doesn't fit
So for
the
example,
environment.
there's like four or five, I don't know which side, there's four up that way where there's no houses. I don't think it would be a big deal up there, but down here, there are residences around it.
Yeah, that would.
That might be a concern.
Yeah.
Can we break down areas where they can be permitted, or just
Sure.
Or can we require them to come and present
individually
before?
Well, you can in terms of granting the approval or not. In terms of where you're going to allow them, you can create what's called an overlay district.
Okay.
An overlay district would say if you meet this criteria, that criteria, the third criteria, you're allowed to have a billboard sign. You need a 3-acre lot on a state highway with no residential development within, 500 yards or whatever it is.
So if we put something in there that if there's residential development, you have to come to the town board within X amount of
You can
feet?
prohibit them if you wanted to, but
Okay.
sure, you could
Because
say.
Brian, what that'll mean is those four up there, we really don't have to worry about.
Right.
And if those pop up, then they have to come to us.
Right, that's good.
Can we make it 1,000 feet of a residential unit?
Make it whatever you want as far as that, because you can ban them altogether.
Let's create something, put it on for discussion.
Yeah, for myself, I generally am a fan of the electronic signs as it makes it possible for more,
Right.
it makes it more accessible advertising for different, different businesses, et cetera. My concern is brightness. Because especially at night, that can be distracting for drivers, it can be disruptive to wildlife, and if it's in the vicinity of residential, it could be, detrimental to people's quality of life. So I think if we can look to regulate overall light output, because during the daytime when you've got sunlight, you definitely need to be, pumping some power through that for, an LED screen to be visible.
Could we set the rule to where they have to be turned off at a certain time, like 10 o'clock at night?
Or, set a time limit where a certain amount of ambient light is
As
reduced.
long as it's reasonable, you certainly can. In terms of lumens, is I think what you're talking
Right.
about, as far as, we'd have to talk to CPL. I have no idea what to set it at.
So we could say 10
Okay.
o'clock, you gotta turn them off, could we do that?
As long as it's reasonable, yeah. If you say you're turning it off because there's, houses within however many feet and they'd see it, you had to turn it off because of that, yeah, that's reasonable. If there's nothing around, why are you telling them to turn it off at 10 o'clock at night? I mean, you have to have some basis for it.
Okay. So guys, how about we say, any sign within 1,000 feet of a residential unit has to come and get approval from us?
I think so.
Are you going to allow billboards all over the town?
No, whatever, nothing new.
No.
So it's just in the P1?
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want no more signs, just what we have right now.
Okay. Okay,
So I guess it's an additional layer of
Yes.
process if they're within a certain
okay,
distance of residential property.
all right.
Because the ones that we see, they're run down and it look like they're
Well-
run down.
How about this? I'll put together a draft law, and we can have it on for, you can have it on for discussion for the next meeting, see if you like what it's in it, or you don't like what's in it, and if you don't want any changes, the next meeting in September, we'll have the resolution introducing it, holding a public hearing. I'm concerned about how ill-defined exactly what it is we want to do is right now. I'm not sure I can put together what you want. So let me give you the law, take a look at it, and then if you like it, you can introduce it at the next meeting.
I think it's reasonable.
That's a good idea.
Should we ask our planning board chairman for?
Yes.
Yes, we should.
Absolutely should.
Yeah.
I wonder if people who
Circulate it
put
to him,
these
too.
signs up, will see this and decide to come out and talk with us, because I'd love to hear their side of it.
Yeah, no, I just, I live down where I live, there's 5 of them, and they're
falling apart.
they're in tough shape. And I think the lumens, I think they got that covered. I think they can, it doesn't go as far, but when people live there, I don't want somebody saying this in my window. They got the lady
yeah.
with the self-storage, she comes in, every once in a while, the lights are too bright, and we're still working on that for her. I want to avoid that.
It's the light pollution.
Light pollution.
If they can put on a dimmer switch so they can keep it reasonable at night so that they don't have to turn it off altogether, that would be ideal, but if it's a situation where they're going to be put in a spot where if they're on and bright at night and it's going to affect people's quality of life, then you got to be able to tell them to turn it off.
Or at least lower the lumens.
Right, you might be in a position where you have to do that on a case-by-case basis instead of having it a uniform provision in your code.
Okay.
So we'll have to look at that.
Okay. So next up is discussion of the DC Department of Behavioral and Community Health at the meeting. They're having a meeting at the rec center. I'd like to waive the fees. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
That's in consent. Next up, a resolution to add tow loss to the town of Fishkill tow list rotation. I don't support this, but, you know, you guys want it on the agenda and for a vote later. Any thoughts?
Well, those of you who've been following, our current guidelines do allow up to 6 towing companies on the town rotation. For years, we've had 4, and we've had a town resident who owns a business in Fishkill, who's been in front of us many times, has asked us to, for consideration, to add his company to the town rotation, the town tow rotation. And he's got really nice trucks, and he's got equipment that probably as nice as anybody else has in the town of Fishkill. And I did ask the police department for a recommendation letter, which
I'm sorry, you asked the police department to recommend that they be added? Or did you ask the police department for their opinion?
I asked the chief to meet with the owner of the tow company.
Okay, your words that you said were, I asked for a recommendation letter.
Okay.
So can you please clarify which was it? Did you ask for a recommendation?
I asked the chief to meet with the tow company.
Okay.
Okay? And so here we are. We're in discussion, and I'd like to see us go to 5 tow companies.
Okay. Brian, any comments?
I mean, I had an opportunity to meet with the gentleman, and for me, has been pointed out, his company's in Fishkill, he pays taxes in Fishkill, and we have the capacity to increase, and I just don't understand why there's an issue with it.
Okay. That'll be in for a resolution toward the end of the meeting. Next up is discussion of resolution, approval of a leave of absence. The town board received a request to approve the leave of absence on July 5th, starting on July 8th, for 1 year for police detective Adam Kangas. I think that's a great idea. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Consent. Number 9.
I read that.
Number 9, discussion of officer in charge of the Fishkill Police Department. Town board to discuss officer in charge of the Fishkill Police Department. After the chief left, Mr. Joseph Clark, who was a detective sergeant, was placed in charge of the police department. Anybody have any questions with that?
I met with him as well, and I know that there was a succession plan for this type of eventuality, but it never was approved by the board. So you had the option to make this choice. I wanted to meet with him and understand him, and he seems very reasonable. And I think for the interim, you know, we probably be in good shape. I know that he's taken some people and put them into patrol because we're a little light in that area. And he was talking about at the end of vacation season, you know, putting them back in their regular jobs. So it just feels like he's, you know, trying to put hands on and run the department. And we need just, you know, we need cohesion, and hopefully he, you know, does the job. He seems so good so far.
So I had, as I mentioned, an opportunity to speak to Detective Sergeant Joe Clark, and one thing that the supervisor and I spoke about privately, and something that we talked about when we had our meeting, is to have monthly meetings with the police commission.
Right.
You know, it's a really big department. There's always a lot of things going on, and it's good for us to stay on top of things. And I couldn't get the police commission to meet with the former chief, but I think I would like to at least start that maybe in September.
So, Mr. Gaba, the role of the police commission, do we have to have a public hearing, a public meeting? we mentioned it before.
You're subject to the open meetings law, yeah, it has to be an open meeting. You can go into executive session if necessary, if allowed under the open meetings law. But that aside, yeah, you have to have it in open session.
So if I put out a notice to the residents, police commission meeting, only thing is gonna be an executive session, no need for you to come, basically. I don't want people to waste people's time coming here. That would be a proper thing to do?
Executive session only.
You could say executive, you can't say no need for you to come.
Yeah.
Because people are
No,
entitled to come and see you go into
I don't want-
executive session. But that
I don't want to waste anybody's time.
No, I completely understand.
But I can do that.
You absolutely can do that.
Could we also schedule a meeting of the police commission with the police chief during a meeting of the town board as we?
The town board is the police commission.
Right.
We are the police commission.
Absolutely do it. Just do it.
So
at your
we
town
could
board.
theoretically have that discussion during an executive session scheduled during a town board meeting
Or
for
in
the
open
month of
session,
September.
if you prefer,
Or,
whichever you want.
right.
Yes. The answer is
Okay.
yes.
So give me some thoughts about, you want to do it after a town board meeting, or you want to have a separate meeting?
You know, for me, I think a first meeting, we should be an executive, just to get.
After a town board meeting?
Yeah.
All right, fair.
Or before.
How do we do that before?
I can try to accommodate that.
Well, you'd have to open the meeting and then adjourn to executive session.
How about we have the meeting at 6:30? Can we do that?
6:30, sure.
Greg, able to make it?
I would just need to make arrangements with my day job to, leave a little early.
So we have our regular meetings at 7 o'clock. How do I do it through the clerk's office to post it properly at
I'd
6:30?
notice it as a special meeting of the town board, acting as the police commission.
So it doesn't matter if it's a separate thing?
No.
The time, okay. We also discussed the possibility of chief for them for the rest of the year. I don't know if I would like to go that far, but would you consider lieutenant for the next meeting?
I don't know what do you mean?
I was talking to John.
Would I consider
What you're looking at.
appointing him to a lieutenant
Lieutenant's
position?
position, yes. I'm not comfortable with chief, but, you mentioned it, and I was thinking about it, and I think that's a good compromise. Because I'd like to find January 1st,
I'd say let's put it on for September.
Okay. You okay with that?
I'm not quite certain yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's being sprung on me right now, so.
Okay, we'll think about it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, maybe when I call you, answer, and let's have a chat.
Okay, you can stop into anytime.
I'm open to that.
You're open to that? So Joe, present a discussion item and a resolution for promotion to lieutenant. You okay with that?
I'm certainly fine with that discussion and potential resolution too, yeah.
Thank you.
While we are on the topic of the officer in charge, I am aware that there was a policy that was drafted, an internal policy within the police department. I would just like to flag for the town board's attention, I do not think that it would be appropriate for that policy to enable an outgoing employee of the town to delegate their replacement, particularly if that is a position, the hiring of which is determined by the town board.
That was just going to be a policy, a general policy for any chief at any time. It's not delegating.
Well, right, but if an individual were to be resigning and there were to be the need to appoint an officer in charge, provisions already give the town supervisor and/or the town board, depending on specifics, in this case, the town supervisor, the ability to make such an appointment. I do not think that it would be wise for this body to abdicate that authority procedurally within an internal policy of one of the town's departments.
So what Councilman Totino is basically saying is the policy that was written, I believe, for the accreditation program would have allowed a police chief to really appoint his successor.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good idea either.
That's across the board.
Across the
We
board.
had Sharon here this evening, a fantastic outgoing comptroller. It would not be appropriate for Sharon, upon retiring, to turn to one of her staff and say, congratulations, you're in charge now, and then expect the town board to just go along with that.
Was the language in that succession plan permanent or temporary or?
I would need to defer to Mr. Gabon exactly how it would apply.
First of all, there was nothing. That was a draft.
I understand it's a draft.
It meant
So
nothing.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we're talking about nothing right now because it was a draft and it
Yes.
never was voted on, so there's no point in talking about it. But it's in the event that there is a vacancy, that allows for that to happen, and then, of course, the board can act
So, Councilman,
and make some alternative appointment.
I think something like that would work where the chief went on vacation, the chief was sick, he was on training. That would trigger that type of chain of command, and I think that's appropriate. But for the chief to leave and write the law to allow his successor, or the person, the patrol lieutenant, because that's a specific position, the patrol lieutenant will be the next chief, that will be able to allow a future chief to say, oh, let me put this guy in as patrol lieutenant, and he's got it.
I don't know how it's done
It
in other
essentially
departments.
bypasses the town board's
Well, again, we would have to.
authority.
We use our authority to vote on that policy, whether or not we
Well,
like it.
right, and
So it's just a draft.
Right, well, and my point in bringing it up is that eventually that policy or some iteration thereof will be brought before us to vote.
Sure.
And I'm suggesting that when we are asked to adopt it, that maybe we don't do that.
Well,
like you said at the beginning, you're just flagging it now.
I'm just flagging it
But
now, so
not
it's
a
in our minds when we
conversation.
do
At this
receive it.
time, There's no policy.
Because there's, what, 100 and something different policies
So
we're going to be
let's move on.
receiving.
Okay. Fair enough. That's it, it's closed. We're done with number 9. Number 10, discussion of resolution approving performance security bond for Dutchess Storage. In accordance with the town code, the town planning board has directed the performance bond must be received from a developer for a project which has received approval from the planning board in accordance with town code. The developer has requested the town set a performance bond in an amount of $217,000 as attached. The planning board engineer has reviewed this request and finds the amount to be appropriate. This is that property, ladies and gentlemen, at the intersection of 82 and 52 by the statue. We're finally moving on it. If we had this 5 years ago, it would never have been a mess. That was one of our first laws that I passed with Councilwoman Daniele and Gadsden to make sure this doesn't happen again. Big mess. So that area is going to get cleaned up, and when I start working, we got this performance bond, so if they walk away, we got $217,000 to clean it up. This is one of my favorite laws that I passed. Everybody okay with that and consent?
I'm very good with it. If that something goes in there, I really want it camouflaged by those tall shrubs. I don't want to look at a building across from Nimham.
Yeah, that whole area is going to be beautiful. You got Nimham, you got the renovation of the Brickoff End, the Roundabout Cemetery is really nice. Then you're talking the new firehouse, so you're talking that area has been totally revitalized. It's a beautiful spot. So number 10 is consent. Number 11, procedural request resolution establish a standard workday for the employees for 2024. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Next, that's in consent. Number 12, discussion of town board to discuss letter to New York State Department of State to complete water consolidation project. This came up for a couple of votes. It didn't pass. There was concern about payment. Councilman Totino worked with his connections in New York State, and can you give us an update of why we don't have to pay this anymore?
Yeah, well, essentially, what it came down to is that the town was acting in good faith within the context of the grant in going through the process of preparing this plan for adoption, but the grant itself can't really be contingent upon a legislative outcome. The town board has those authorities itself. In fact, there's a bit of case law which Supervisor Albra and the town board helped establish in 2020 as it pertains to that legislative right to oversee matters as pertaining to public utilities and zoning. And so when I made that case to some of my contacts within the state system, recognizing that there was a concern regarding potentially this grant funding being revoked or us having to repay it, I think it was well understood that the town was doing with the grant money what it was supposed to be doing, but that ultimately the plan that was adopted as a result of that did not pass muster with the town board, and the resolution failed.
Any questions, guys? Brian?
No questions.
Okay. That's closed. Good win for Fishkill. All right, number 13 is discussion of capital plan items. The 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is coming soon. We're in 2024 already, and we need to prepare for this. As our financial advisor came earlier, the town is in very healthy shape to do something grand. These type of events only happen once every 50 years. I'd like to hear you guys' discussion before I put this in the budget, whether you like it, want me to or not. The first one would be 80 grand for a town hall campus pathway. We worked with Healy across the street. The people came in mass to complain about that development. We were able to persuade Healy to build a sidewalk. I was with John that day, going across from Fishkill Woods across Fox Ridge, and there's a nice nub in front of our recreation center. I'd like to run the nub to the parking lot and then across Town Hall, and another nub that will go right across the back of the rec building, across to the Veteran War Memorial, because some seniors can't walk back there through the grass. Your thoughts?
No, I was there too for that discussion.
Yes.
And I'm for it.
Yeah.
John?
I'm just wondering where the $80,000 came from.
Oh, it's just a number. The previous number was 60. Carmine said he might be able to do it in concrete instead of, we might be able to do it in-house, so it could be less.
Okay.
So
Probably will be less.
it will be less. All
Yeah, I'm
right.
definitely in favor. You know, we were all involved in our new comprehensive plan, and I think we understand the importance of safe pedestrian access. So if we can make the town hall and recreation center and police department campuses more walkable for residents, that I'm all for it.
Thank you. All right, next one is $100,000 for the Bailey Sword statue. We've been talking about this for 2.5 years. We got to get this done because this guy's not going to have it done by 2026 if we don't vote for it this year and get it done next year.
Well, as you know, I've been out there pushing away for this sword and the celebration, which there are going to be some updates on certain things coming forward, as you all know. But I'm hoping that there is some corporate money or even some individual contributions to offset. I would. Yes, we tried to have a fundraising thing. Yes, it got bogged down for 1.5 years and didn't go anywhere. And so we had to make a move, and Ozzy and I talked about this, and in order to get it done. And yes, we do have a sculptor that has his supply chain issues, and I went out to visit with him and talk about this, and he does need to get going. So in as much as that we can budget for this, but still looking for money to come back and help pay for it is an option. But his timeline, his supply chain, all kinds of things, it is getting close to being kind of, I wouldn't say critical, but it's getting there.
Yeah, so if we can budget for the 100 and you can bring back 25, we just subtract it from the 100.
Right.
You okay with it?
Yeah.
John?
So this goes into the 250th celebration. Do we have any type of budget, what we're looking at for that?
What else do I got up here? Do I got the passport and this other stuff in here? What do I got here?
Not on this list.
Not on this list. There's another list?
These were just capital plan items that you had listed.
What I'm hoping for, as far as other celebrations, is that there is a sponsor for that, and I will know more at the end of this month.
So basically, what I'd like to introduce, the Dutchess County had a passport program where they highlighted all the municipalities. So I would like to do something similar and highlight all our historical stuff in the town of Fishkill and mail them to all the residents in Fishkill.
Right.
Upon completion, they come to the town hall, town clerk's office, my office, and they receive a challenge coin that they completed that task. That'll be one part. Then the second part is that...
Is this going to be a town board thing, or is this going to be a supervisor?
You know,
I don't even think it would be a town board thing. I think it would just be a town of Fishkill thing. This is for America's 250th.
Yeah.
Well, as far as planning and budgeting.
Right.
The town board as a whole, approves budgets. So it's...
Right.
And this won't be until next year's budget, but I got to know how much money we can do it or not. So this is more... I can't come to this with you guys this next year at this time because it'll be too late.
Yeah.
So if you say it's okay to move on these things and I get the numbers and I bring them to you, that'll be more prepared for the 26 budget.
Is Arnold helping you with this, or?
I'd rather work with the Veterans Committee on a lot of this stuff. And if Arnold wants to be a part of it, we can do that too.
I think you should bring it.
But if that's what the case is, but that'll be the first thing, a passport. We mail it on behalf of the town board. You complete the passport, you come to town hall, you get a challenge coin. That's a nice little gift. And then prior to school getting over in early June, we find all our documents that are important through American history, and we get children, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and other civics groups to read all these documents, starting maybe around 3 o'clock, and then the last one before it gets dark, the Declaration of Independence, and then we have a nice little fireworks display.
Something like that, that'd be great, but
I'd like to know if I can move on this.
Yeah, but here's the thing, I know.
You know, we're gonna be here.
Yes,
and,
and we will work on this
Okay.
together.
Okay.
So, I know that Arnold was working with Rec and Highway on kind of coordinating something, so that's why I want to bring in and see where he is and all that, and where those guys are. So, you know, maybe we don't duplicate.
They could do their own thing, but they're not gonna do a passport challenge coin, and they're not gonna do the reading of the important documents of the United States, and they're not gonna do the fireworks. So they're not doing that. I'd like to do that as a town board.
Okay.
So, you know, I wanted a long parade and all that other stuff, but, you know, that wasn't gonna happen.
Well, it's not going to happen. You're going to shut down 84 to do that.
Yeah. So is it okay for me to investigate what it'll cost for the passports?
Yeah.
Challenge coins, a fireworks display, and that wouldn't be for this budget, it would be the budget after that, but we have to line these things up to get them done. I would have to talk to the county, what it'll cost to print this stuff, find somebody to do the challenge coins, what it costs to make them each, you know.
I want to be working with you on that, you know.
What do you want to do?
Just, we'll meet, we'll talk, we'll just work on it, but yes, I think it's very important.
So why don't you have a discussion with Virgil and see if the Veterans Committee and, Arnold would be interested in working on this?
Right.
Because you guys can design the passport for the historical events, the places.
So I'll talk to him and then we'll get together, have a little chat and kind of get some better direction. But I know Kenya wants to be involved, so, you know.
Okay.
Maybe she wants to be involved.
All right. Next thing I would like to do is and it's probably not gonna cost 100 grand, but I'd like to fix this up. You know, our town is pretty good. We got a beautiful police station, rec building, the town hall itself. Our infrastructure is getting done, and we're running out of major things to do. I think it's time to upgrade what we have here to, you know.
The first year that I was here, remember I had proposed that?
Yes.
And actually got some drawings, but decided not to move on it for budgetary purposes and all kinds of other things. And it was too early for me to be involved, but this is, you know, I understand that, you know, it's functional, et cetera, but I see nothing wrong. I see nothing wrong with an upgrade.
You know, John? And it's not gonna cost that much, but just like maybe 80. It depends what we do. It might be modular, they just put the pieces in. But this is a community of 25,000 with healthy budget reserves, and we should match it with what we are. You, Councilman?
Well, I agree. You know, and again, this is not just the town board that uses this. This space is used by our planning board, our zoning board of appeals. You know, we have important discussions in this room. This is a space that can be used by the public for other community meetings as well. To have, you know, something a little more substantial would be, I think, an appropriate investment.
I'll forward you the files, e-files that I got on the design. It's New York State contract, everything, so.
Even better, even cheaper.
You know, so.
All right, then the last thing,
this
John,
is
how do
the
you feel
original
about it?
from 1981.
I'm willing to talk.
Wow.
What'd she say?
This is the original furniture from
this is
when they built Town Hall in we are sitting at a row of desks that is older than me.
Okay.
Just for
And the last thing I'd like to maybe propose in the budget for next year is putting out flagpoles in front of the recreation building, right near 52, and line them up. I was down in Florida on vacation, and a couple municipalities that I see just had some spectacular flags lined up, and
What flags did you have in mind?
the ones that right here, the 13 colony flag,
Right.
our state, our county, our town, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Coast Guard, lined up right on between where Fox Ridge is on the road, then all the way to where the police station opens up, in that little section there, because there's nothing there. There's no trees, there's
Yeah.
no bushes, there's nothing there. And I think that would look pretty cool if we had that there. And
Well,
I don't know what that would cost, but a flagpole can't be more than 10 grand each. I don't know, I'm just.
No, they're
That seems
not
like a
even
lot
close
of
to that.
I don't even know what they cost.
If it costs 10 grand for all 11 of them, I'd be surprised.
And that's gonna be a little more than that, but
Well, it depends on just how
big they are and what they're made
how
of.
tall
how
and,
big, yeah.
you know.
And I would defer to Carmine to see, what they would cost and stuff.
I mean, you know me, I wanted those military signs out there.
And they
so-
had, and it was funny, is in Marco Island, they had a Veterans War Memorial, and they had all the seals exactly what we talked about
So-
in their memorial.
So for the 250th, I think this is very.
No, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna see if I can get it done for 2025.
Well, no, I understand, but the thing is, it's in time for that. It just,
Yes.
I think,
Oh,
will
yeah.
help, because the sword's gonna go right there.
Yeah, so you'll have the sword, you'll have the flags.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what else we could do with the
You'll
town
have
hall campus.
sidewalks.
Sidewalks.
And that's enough.
And there's, guys, in the last 5 years, the town, you drive around, there was mention of the roads, the parks, the infrastructure, our buildings, the rec roof. We just built a garage in the highway department. We did it in-house, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were very healthy. We probably got close to 300 million of new revenue coming in when it gets built. We're in a very financially strong position to do these things. And very closely, we're going to be at the point where we're only talking about budgetary items for salaries, equipment, and cars and trucks. No more major infrastructure. So that's going to be, the Little League lights are coming in next month. The deck for Jan Van Pelt Park is getting put in. There's a lot of good things happening, and we're going to be freed up to do a lot more if we want to. Okay, so that was discussion of the capital plan. Now we're on to this coalesced to the independence. We talked about that already, so.
Which number is this? I'm sorry.
This would be number 14. We discussed 13 and 14. No, just, yeah, you can scroll up, close 13. And you guys are okay with me looking in for number 14 for what it costs to do the pamphlets and all this other stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are we doing this as is there a committee? Like, I know we've had.
Well, I just told him, get the Veterans Committee, get Arnold involved.
And there'll be some other people that I know want to volunteer, so,
Yeah, so the passport
This will
would
be
be.
a collaborative effort.
So the passport would be, could have the Van Wyck House, Chief Nimem statue, Bailey Sword, the battery down by Route 9, and certain things are gonna be like, drive by the battery, don't stop, because you're gonna get rear-ended and killed. But, you mark down the date and time that you saw the historical site.
Sure.
And that'll go, and when you're done with it, you bring the passport here, and we review it, and then we exchange that for a challenge coin, something that you could have and pass down as an heirloom.
That'd be cute for kids.
And the big one is everybody talks about the monument on top of Mount Beacon for the fires. That's in the town of Fishkill, not Beacon. So that's going to be, you might just win that one by just going hiking the mountain and marking that down. So we'll discuss what the parameters are, complete half of them, what tasks. We can be creative with that.
Yeah.
All right, so you can close 14 too. I'm just going to move on, and when it's ready, we'll be voting to appropriate money if we can. 15 is discussion of resolution to enter an agreement with Pagonis O'Neill for court security. 2 guys retired, so there's openings. The judge couldn't find any candidates. This is a contract with a 30-day opt-out clause on both sides. I spoke with the officer in charge, and when we get back into manpower, where we have enough in manpower, we can reconsider this. Everybody okay with this?
Yeah, I spoke to Judge Reach about this, and I was in contact with Mr. Pagonis about this as well.
Okay. You okay with it?
Oh, yeah.
I am,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a service
needed.
contract. I would rather rehire than take police off of duty.
Well, it could be that way if we can't find people, so we just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So
This could be at least a year to get back up to speed with
right.
patrol officers, so we just don't know.
I think it's a good move.
You?
I agree.
Okay, that's in consent. Number 16, discussion of resolution authorize Vanderwater and Vanderwater to enter a tax cert proceeding with 57 West Merritt. Everybody okay with that? Not everybody's okay with it, but we
We're
know
not
we gotta
okay
move
with
on
it, but I think we gotta say
We
it.
gotta go on it. Okay, put that in consent. Number 17, resolution to approve peddler's permit for paddock food truck. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Yep. Okay, consent. Number 18, discussion of resolution modification of 2024 rec fund budget for senior trip program. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I talked to Jason about all the stuff. It's very, very good. You know, they're going to have money that covers this, so it's all good.
Okay. Okay, and the next one is a discussion resolution to authorize modification of the 2024 rec fund adopted budget for summer camp. Everybody okay with that consent?
Yes, you know that he's gone from 70 kids a week last year to 125 kids a week this year.
That just shows the success of the town of Fishkill with its recreation program.
It's amazing.
The senior program.
I can only imagine how it's going to expand with the investments in our park spaces.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary to see the commitment to the rec center to get this done. I appreciate all three, Jason, Lauren, and Ms. Von Egypt, getting this work done. Next up is 20, resolution to hire recreation staff for worker various programs. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Next up, 21, discussing a resolution to commence proceedings on a petition zoning change for Duchess Manor, 14 Course Lane, Hudson Highlands River Trail. So what this is that the Duchess Manor, and there's a little ranch house that's next to it. They're in different zones. So we want to put the house in the same zone, so it's only one house. That's basically the gist of it.
This is like their administrative office.
Yeah, yeah. So what they're going to do is they're going to take the Duchess Manor and knock down the additions and make that into a welcome center, and then the business operation will be in this little house.
Right.
Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Next up is discussion of resolution granting a request for payment of lieu of maintaining 3 affordable housing units. We had a problem in Fishkill Woods with properties that were out of warranty, and the 150 residents that lived there, we're not getting any responses from the developer. We had a little leverage with these 3 units in Regency and by Walmart. We came to an agreement where they gave the HOA of Fishkill Woods $28,800, and in return, we're going to agree to receive $35,000 for each of these units. Everybody okay with that?
I'm not. I can't at this point. I just don't and I know we've chatted about this, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it's the right thing to do right this time. I need to, I just can't go along with it.
Yeah, everybody take out your pen and pencils and write down the date and time where Brian and I agreed 100% with you.
We've agreed before.
I know. I am 100% with you on this. I recognize that there was a degree of negotiating being done, and perhaps we can try and find another method that would satisfy toll, but I don't think that those 3 units should be bought out.
We discussed this with them when they came to the town board meetings.
I know.
Yeah, I wasn't on the town board then.
Well, okay, that's fine, but we worked in good faith. I worked in good faith with Toll Brothers to receive, $375,000 in water and sewer fees. They've got another 200 homes or so coming into the town of Fishkill. If something like this happens, how we're going to negotiate on the benefit of the residents of Fishkill.
I just think this warrants further discussion. Maybe it's
can we table this for a little while?
Can we table it?
I mean, God knows Toll Brothers is taking their time getting things done. Why don't we sit back a little bit and figure out if this is what we really want to do?
Let's just table it a little bit.
So when?
October.
What do you think, Mr. Galvin?
Well, the issue here is Toll Brothers claims that these units are not being rented because under the formula that you've established for affordable housing, only people who make a certain amount of money are allowed to purchase them, to rent them. And likewise, under the formula that you've established, they're allowed to charge only a certain amount in terms of the rent. And what they're saying is those numbers don't match up. That they can't find people who make enough money to pay the rent don't qualify under your formula for being able to rent these apartments, and people who are qualified to rent the apartments don't make enough money to rent them.
So maybe we need Christian to take a look at those numbers.
Yeah, that sounds like a revision for the formula is necessary, not a buyout of the units.
Maybe you do, that's a thought, but the other thing is you might want them to come forward with some more proof that what they're saying is true.
Would you be amicable if we said only 2 units?
I need to get into, I know they came here. I know they did this correction. like, how much money did they spend on correcting issues out there? I mean,
28,800.
28,800. So were those issues theirs to begin with? You know, I just don't.
You gotta understand something. The things were out of warranty. The residents came from Fishkill Woods.
I understand.
They filled up town hall here. Everybody here said, we'll work to get this done.
Right.
The only avenue to work to get it done was to work with Toll Brothers to give them the money to get it done. So now, Toll Brothers kept their word, and we're not gonna keep our word, because if we knew we weren't gonna vote to do it, then Toll Brothers would not have given them money to do it. And we would have 150 irate citizens complaining that their properties are not up to par.
And I
And I work big time on this.
That may well be enough for me to eventually decide that we should vote on it, but I'm not willing to do it yet.
Is there a number that you two would be interested in?
Maybe they should come and do that. They should come and just present again, and let's ask some more questions. And maybe, you know, what is the formula, what's going on? And I respect what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and they did do that, and I get that, and I don't want to renege on something, but it just feels like at this particular time, I just can't.
Especially given the nature of their argument as to why this would be a good method. It sounds like the methodology behind the calculation of those rates, the math isn't mathing, really. It's not doing what it needs to do in order for there to be an eligible population. Likewise, we heard from former Councilwoman Gadsden tonight that there are people who are attempting to inquire about the availability of units who are struggling with communications, which obviously that's an internal thing which can and should be addressed. But
let's be clear on that, Greg. It isn't me who's saying that the numbers don't match up.
Oh, I know.
It's Toll Brothers who's
I
saying
know.
that.
My point being that we should invite Toll Brothers to come speak to us.
Can you set that up for the second meeting in September?
We can ask them to come. I don't know. I assume they will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain to them what you saw tonight and let them know what their concerns
Absolutely.
are? And we'll do a presentation specific for Toll Brothers?
Yeah. Tell them to.
And if ultimately...
Second September?
Yeah.
Second meeting in September, yeah.
I was going to say, if ultimately doing what had been previously negotiated is the best course of action, I'm sure that we will reach that conclusion, but I think we would all do with a better full understanding of everything and see if there's any other alternative that would be a better outcome.
I need to see this.
This is the worst possible outcome.
I need to see it in writing. I need to see it in print.
Okay, fair enough, guys. You guys made your point. So I'm sorry, Becky, 32, I'm sorry, what number is this? 21?
That was 22.
So 22 is gonna, I'm gonna have to make a motion to amend the consent to take that out.
I don't believe it's in consent.
Oh, there's no resolution?
No.
Oh, even better.
No, there's no resolution.
Okay. All right, good. So tell them that we had a discussion item. Board members were apprehensive of doing this, and they would like to invite them to explain, to hear their suggestions. Okay, I thought there was...
Specifically, say that we are concerned about we're concerned about their explanation that the formulas are not producing an adequate supply of potential tenants. And we'd like to speak to them about ways that we can try to resolve that.
Understood.
In the meantime, can the supervisor talk to Christian about?
I want to move him out and give the new controller those
Oh, okay.
responsibilities. And give
Oh,
him
that's
a little-
right.
And give him a little bit of a stipend for what he's done up to date.
Okay.
Because he's not really an employee with the town. The other guy is. So,
Okay.
so that's what I like to do. That's why I asked for the second meeting of September. All right. So, all right. Table that to the second meeting of September, please. Next up is discussion to allow the Justice Court to apply for a grant. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next up is discussion of resolution approving a request for a reduction in the posted performance security for Van Wyck News. Mr. Gabba, just give us a brief.
Sure. Van Wyck Muse was required to post a performance bond for the infrastructure and facilities at their residential development in the amount of $3,265,501.35. They have, according to the report from CPL, completed a substantial amount of the work required on the site that was bonded. And Van Wyck Muse, because of completion of that portion of the work, has requested a reduction in their performance security to $1,116,541.10. In other words, the outstanding work that's left to be done would cost no more than that amount. So there's no reason to have $3 million posted. They want it reduced to $1 million. And CPL has reported that that's
There you
fine, and we've submitted a resolution for you to reduce the amount of.
This is Toll Brothers who's requesting this?
Van Wyck Muse, which is a branch of Toll Brothers, yes.
Are we under any obligation to move on that?
No.
Well, then I would say that that would be our bargaining chip. We'll agree to do this if they give up the 3 affordable housing units.
It really doesn't work that way, Greg. If you
Greg,
don't want to
they've been-
reduce their bond and you want to say, hey, you got to finish everything out, so be it. But, you know, you can't say, we'll reduce it if you don't want to have affordable units or something like that, or we'll do this in lieu of giving you those. There's no quid pro quo with these things. You're either willing to reduce it or you're not willing to reduce it.
It was
You
just a
can't bring
thought,
it
that's
up.
why I
That's a good
asked
thought.
the attorney for his advice.
I don't mean to berate you, I'm just saying.
You were my assistant when I was dealing with Toll Brothers to get that water money that they were going to charge the residents.
Oh, yeah.
How hard it was to get through that.
Absolutely.
So
Those were
and this
long
is-
negotiations.
And this performance bond happened due to that 8252 development. That didn't happen. And we got one that's working right now that's in compliance.
Yeah.
Exactly how we want this to be done. So this is a pretty good thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
No, this is example of the
we got the
performance
engineer
bond
sign
law
off.
doing what
Yes,
it's
sir.
intended to do.
Yes, protecting the citizens of the town of Fishkill.
Yeah, CPL signed off, so.
All right. Next up is privilege of the floor for only agenda items. Anything that we discussed tonight, you can come up and speak. Anybody? Ma'am, you first. You first. You were here.
Good evening, council members. My name's Erin Stein-Whitson. I live at 233 Route 9D, which previously was 22 Chorus Lane. We had our address changed. We live 2 doors down from 14 Chorus, and I just wanted to weigh in on the rezone application. Supervisor Albert, I want to thank you, first of all, for responding so quickly to my response. I didn't expect that. And to Mrs. Tompkins, thank you as well for my questions. You're really, really responsive, so thank you. I just want to make sure that it's clear to the board members that this request for the rezone isn't just for office building or offices. It's also for the land in front. The reconfiguration of the parking lot isn't just changing spaces, it's to utilize the entire front half lawn of 14 Chorus, which abuts against 2 residential properties, ours and our other families. We have a lot of concerns about environmental impacts. It's on top of an aquifer, that's our drinking water. We have a lot of concerns about the project in its entirety. This is only a segment of it. There's a larger trail that's gonna go from Cold Spring in theory to Beacon. This parking lot is currently at about 51 spots. The proposal for this parking lot in the larger scheme is gonna be 190 spots. That's one parking lot. There's also gonna be one potentially built across the street from us, and then about 0.8 miles down the road, across from, it'll be called the Notch parking lot across from the Naturals, also on 9D. The implications of the traffic, the environmental impact, the crowds, the safety, we have a lot of concerns about it. So when we're looking at pushing this forward, we want to just make sure that council members are taking close look at the information that's going through. A number of us will be at the board meeting tomorrow night as well. We've looked at a lot of the application pieces that have been represented. We have concerns about some information that's not been included. So we just want to make sure we slow things down and not go full steam ahead. This is my first time being involved at this level, so I'm just learning as I go. So I appreciate, again, all the help that you guys have given me. If there's anything that I'm missing, we want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure we're efficient for the boards. We want to make sure that we're communicating clearly. So if there's any other steps that you could recommend or anything else I'm supposed to be doing, I would appreciate it.
Just if they're not giving you information that you want, send me the email and I'll get you that information.
Okay.
Okay, so we can do that.
We've had meetings. They're giving us information. It seems pretty controlled. We've been waiting for the VDC, the Visitation Data Committee, to come out with what the projections will be for visitation to that area. We'd let you know that area of 9D by the manor. It's pretty quiet, but the road is very, very busy. Speed limit's 55 miles an hour. It's a dangerous road. We've had accidents in our front yard. It's hard. To bring more people there, they call it the heart of the trail. It's going to impact not just us who live literally right there, but anybody on 9D that's commuting back and forth. So we just want to make sure, and I want to state this, and I said this to you, Supervisor, we are for a trail. We have been since the beginning. We've had conversations with Scenic Hudson since 2013 about this. At the time, It was said to be a trail that wouldn't impose on our property, it wouldn't be in our way, we wouldn't even know it's there. In the last 2 years, this project's grown huge. So we just want to make sure that when we're talking about development, we always think about it in housing terms, but we also have to look in terms of how many tourists are we driving to the area, can we handle this? And already Beacon and Cold Spring and Fishkill is impacted by this too,
Yes.
the number of people coming in. We want a trail, we want a compromise. We want to find a way that doesn't impact obviously our homes and our quality of life every single day, but also doesn't impact our community so that we avoid going to the towns on the weekends. We don't want to do that. We already do that. We don't want to have this happen more. So we want to work together and have the advocacy from our board members to help us work together with the organization and the applicant to find a middle ground that's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, just please, anything that they're not giving you that you want, contact me, I'll contact Ms. Casala, and I'll get that information for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a question? You say you've been working with them for a long time. What compromises have there been so far, or what, have you accomplished anything? Have they, it sounds like you still are bothered with what's...
So the way that the trail started back in 2013, again, was a very different vision of the trail. For some reason, in the last couple of years, it started to grow exponentially. I'll be honest, I was still for the trail for a while when they sold the property to Scenic Cuts, and I was relieved. I didn't want a development right next to our house. We didn't need more development. But then I found out that they were planning the trail they called the parking lot they called the Hartsick parking lot on state land across the street from Hartsick Lane. And it was supposed to be 120 spots, and that was a little alarming to me. I'm like, that's a lot. How many people are you anticipating here? And they didn't talk to us about it, so we had found out about it through other channels. When we asked for a meeting, they granted it, and they worked with us at that meeting. But then we found out that they were going to do this 190 parking lot right in our front yard. And then drips and drabs came out. So the severity of the size of this project has now gotten many of us in the state of panic of what is this going to mean for our quality of life.
Understood.
Yeah.
But please,
Does that answer your question?
Sure. Yeah, but please, I understand there's like some of the parking lots going to be blacktop and the others won't be. So there's some
Yeah,
of your
so the
concerns
way,
too.
the way the conceptualization, and it's just a conceptualization at this time, the section that's going to be coming down the slope from the manor, the top part is asphalt and the bottom part is considered decomposed granite. And I don't know the details to what they're going to use for that. Decomposed granite is pervious, so
Pervious, yep.
in theory, it should go through, but if it's not built correctly, that too could be impervious.
And that's closer to your property.
What's that?
That's closer to your family property, right?
That's very close to, it's on top of all of our wells.
Yes.
So, again, that whole section is an aquifer, across the street is an aquifer. And if the DG is not put in properly, it could reduce the amount of water that goes through and refill our aquifers.
Yeah, and that would be something, if you have the question for them, they're not giving you the answers, I'll push them to give you that answer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Great.
I have a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
Yeah.
Are you asking us not to vote on this, to move forward on this?
I'm new to the process, so I know we have the big meeting tomorrow where HHFT is going to present, I guess, their applications. It's up for, I guess, if I understand this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's up for approval to review the application. If I have that wrong.
The planning board, right?
What's that?
The planning board.
Yes, the planning
Tomorrow.
board. Right, that's
Here.
tomorrow. Where you guys play into it, I wasn't too sure, that's why I'm here. I figured like-
All we're doing is making it one site, and that's it. So one is zone this and one is zone this, and it's gonna have the same zoning. That's all we're doing tonight.
Okay, but that then
I'm
gives
sorry,
them the.
I apologize. What are we doing?
What you're doing tonight is acknowledging receipt of a request, a petition for a zoning change and referring it to council for a memo and preparation of a draft local law, just so you could see what it would.
So we got a ways to go.
And what would happen, I don't want to carry on.
Yeah, no, let her know.
What would
She's here.
happen is the board would look at the local law, and if they're so inclined after understanding, getting a memo back from me on it, they could set a public hearing on it and hold the public hearing, but they can't act until SEQA review is completed on this.
Okay.
The planning board is almost certainly going to be lead agency in SEQA review. So the board is going to have to, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but is going to have to make a determination as to whether they want to go ahead and hold a public hearing now, or they want to wait until SEQA review is done by the planning board and then hold a public hearing. That's basically the decision that'll be made, but there'll be no zoning change until environmental issues have been vetted by the planning board as lead agency and secret review, and I'm sure that would go to the issues that you're discussing.
Absolutely.
But
That's
that's
great.
going to be several months from now. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Okay.
Tonight's really just acknowledgement.
Okay,
Even
very
better,
good.
even
As long as
better
we're all on
news.
the same page with that, that's great.
Thank you, Mr. Galba, I appreciate that.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you very
thank you
much.
so
Thanks
much.
for coming tonight.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Marie? Disperker?
Hi again.
Hi.
Jody Lynn Burka, Old Glenham Road. I just wanted to mention to Greg that I think that John probably misspoke, because when we were talking about putting the tow boss on the list, you said that you wanted to hear from the police department, so he probably recommended that they go down and talk to him and do whatever they do when they're down there.
Yeah.
I cleared
But-
that up.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I
I'm just making
appreciate-
sure that, I wanted to make sure that that's what, because you did ask for, you said you couldn't do anything
Well,
until you heard
I said
from
that
the
I was
police.
hoping that the chief could establish that there was some sort of
Something, yes.
operational need or
Yeah,
some
exactly.
existing deficiency. Unfortunately, the memo which he provided did not address those concerns at all. But it is good to know that he was able to speak with the applicant, which is, that is good.
Okay. Thank you.
Marie?
Marie Campanaro. I'm here to discuss the capital plan project. Okay, I looked it over, and the sword, from the day it was first mentioned, I know why you want to do it. As a taxpayer, I really don't feel we need it, and I still feel that way. And the dais, I know it's old, okay, but $100,000 is a heck of a lot of money for a dais, okay? Flags, I hope the location, I'm not against them, but I hope the location is in the right area, and it's not overpowering.
Right in the front, lined up.
I mean, not in front of the building.
No, on the, toward where the road is, so maybe 10 feet into the roadway, lined up, right there, between Fox Ridge and the
So
driveway.
it's open property?
Our
Open
property.
area?
Our
So
property.
this is the space between the parking lot and Route 52?
Yeah, there's nothing there, there's no trees, bushes, at least we got trees over here and bushes. There's nothing over there in that section. So I think it'll look pretty spectacular. Officer, can you close the door?
And the
Thank you, sir.
walkway, the walkway. Now, that walkway is going to connect police department, recreation department and all, because I know in Jay, they have those big, like the sales, they have a lot of people that come to the recreation center, they park here because there's not enough parking, they all have to walk. And I know that there was an issue many times where they were afraid with the people, that, especially the woman, they would come because they would have strollers, baby things, and they would be able to go there, so they have to walk with their kids. And I know that there was talk that they would like to have had something walking there. Is that going to connect all through that to lead to the recreation center and all?
So I was thinking, where Fox Ridge is, they put a nub of a sidewalk, and there's maybe from me to you, to get from Fox Ridge where the sidewalk is to the parking lot in front of the rec center. That would be one portion. And then the back of the rec building, I had a veteran that couldn't walk through the grass this Memorial Day, and he asked if we could put a little path, so there would be another path there, and that might be the same distance. And then from that side of the building, out to the front of the building, around to where the employees come in for the day, in that area. So that would be the direction I would like to go. That route.
Okay. Now, one thing I do not see on here, and this has been discussed at other board meetings, Town Hall has needed a new heating system for many years. And it has been discussed here previously that it would eventually be a capital project. I see all these other things on here, $100,000 for a dais, nobody has a problem with that, I do. Statue, I do. That money could be used to improve the heating system in this building. Okay? I really think that's an important item. That should be on here. Okay? And my final comment, I'm so glad the auditor is very happy. We're all happy that we got a good audit report. We've got revenue, and we've got a very good fund balance. But fund balances are for a rainy day. Because we have it, does not mean we have to spend it. Needed items is what a fund balance is for. You don't know with the economy what happens, and we're in a municipality, and we're all taxpayers, so we have to be very careful with how we spend our money. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Good seeing you. Councilwoman?
Louise Daniele, legal resident of over 30 years. I agree with Marie. I always agree with Marie. I agree with everything that she just said. We don't need a $100,000 dais. The $100,000 sword, if you couldn't raise the money for it, you shouldn't get it. They do need a new heating system. They do need a new air conditioning system. It's been pushed off year by year by year. When you said $400,000 for the celebration, I just thought you were crazy, because all these things are not broken down into how much it's going to cost, but I don't, it's just...
This is just discussion to see if they want me to do it.
Well,
I'll get to that.
I believe they already said they did, so now we're going to see what the...
Now we'll find out and see what the passports cost, what the challenge points cost.
It's not going to be that much.
Yeah, I'm just conservatively estimating that. It'll be less than that.
Whatever it is, Marie and I still don't think that amount of money should be spent on a dais, and the sword as well. So you had said we're running out of things to do. We have a healthy budget. Obviously, we can think of other things to do with that money than what you think. Also, for 22, in lieu of the affordable housing, you said, we discussed this as a board. So, Greg, you were not, I'm sorry, Councilmember Tatino, you were not on the board at the time. I was with the other members and with Councilmember, Carmine, it's fine. He and I did not agree to let them have in lieu of housing, and I'm pretty sure Brian, or Councilmember Rye did not agree either. So when you say we, you're saying I, because you had that discussion. We didn't all agree that that's what we would do. So I just want to make that clear, because it contradicts what we're trying to do, which is give people affordable housing. And if they don't have the opportunity to know how to get affordable housing, they're not gonna get it, and you're just gonna give the developer something else. And I'll remind you, it's the same developer that didn't pay back the water off of Merritt Boulevard for years and years and years. And you and I and the rest of the board the old board had to take care of that. So just to say we'll let you do that because you did things that you should have taken care of decades ago is not right. So I'm glad that Councilmember Rye is looking into it more, and also Councilmember Tatino. I know Councilmember Foreman was pretty quiet on it, so he's probably, I don't know which way he's leaning, but it didn't sound like he was opposing it. So I am totally against that, and I think that you should let the people, the citizens, know how to apply for those, and not to just give it away so easily.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, so I just want to thank you, Councilmember Tatino, and I want to thank you, Councilmember Rye, for standing up for what I believe is right. And I hope that I'm staying here late so that somebody can give me a connection to who's going to give me the information to jump on this ability to search out these apartments that are available. The math ain't mathing is the correct language. And we cannot barter on the backs of the people. We can't do that. What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and barter it on the backs of the people without giving them opportunity, and then giving the builders, Mr. Supervisor, who you know you are not a fan of the builders,
I'm not a fan
never
of
on the
builders.
side
I'm not
of the builders,
a fan,
and so when the builders give you what you deserve and what you should have, barter it on the backs of the people to gain some leverage, in my opinion, is just not the right thing to do. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for, just stepping up. And I don't think that 30 days is enough time to do anything. So I'm hoping that whatever that date is, y'all discuss it and then extend it a little further to give me the opportunity to work on people who I know will qualify for those apartments. And if not, then we can see what could happen.
So, can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
Thank you. So, I think we're going to be in transition on who's controlling the affordable housing program here. That's number one. So, I think there's going to be a little information gap, time lag, until we can get that ramped up. Would that be correct, do you think? Ozzy?
Yeah, listen, we just hired a new controller. I'd like him to be assigned that task.
And-
He just started. We're doing the budget. The budget is more important to me right now, to make sure we continue our exceptional finances. So that's going to be my number one priority for the next, until we come to the public hearing and we pass it. So until the end of October, that's my number one project.
All right, so let me finish my thought. And that is, I'd like to see this information get out as well. So I will stay engaged on that, and once we do, I think that we should definitely, because Debbie's helping on something I'm doing with the police department, which will roll out soon, a notification for the public. So we should be able to design something that'll be on the webpage. And of course, you know her demands, and she's been away for vacation, and then we have this transition going on. So I'm not interested in ignoring it, so let me just work through this, and I'll be more than happy to tell you and give you an update.
I appreciate that. The timeline that you guys listed here, unless I was not right, was September, right? Like you was bringing it back in September, right? Which would give us a month. So based on the timeline that was given for us to revisit, to discuss, you guys to discuss it, based on the fact that we don't know who's going to be taking charge of it, the 30-day timeline, next meeting timeline, really doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think that our intention was to invite Toll Brothers to come speak to us and explain the issues that they're having in being able to find tenants for those units.
That's pretty much
and
it.
the issues that they're having with the formula, because ideally, I think what would be in everyone's best interest would be to refine the formula so that the people who need affordable housing are eligible to get it, because what Mr. Gavis says Toll Brothers is complaining about is that if you can afford to pay the rent, you're making too much money to qualify. And if you are falling below the income threshold where you would be eligible for it, you're simply not going to have the cash on hand to be able to make your monthly rental payments. And so Toll Brothers is I don't want to use the word crying poverty, but they're basically saying, well, we can't find anyone to rent these units.
So is it the role of Toll Brothers?
Their houses to be bought.
This is what was confusing before. So is it the role of Toll Brothers to seek out the people who they're trying to get it, or is it the town of Fishkill who's seeking it out? That is my question.
Well,
I think it's the town of Fishkill's guidelines about affordable housing. So
exactly.
I think it's on the town.
So then Christian, who even though this assignment is going to be removed from him, he should have access to what this is. So while you guys are doing your homework, Kenya will be sitting home doing her homework, reading up on what this is that Christian has, so I have a clear understanding.
He gave us a status on that, and I can forward that to you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. I look forward to that. You guys have a great night.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Helen Mauch. I'm a partner in the law firm of Mincer Mauch, and we represent Hudson Highland Fjord Trail, Inc. I just want to assure this board, as well as the speaker that spoke on the agenda item tonight for 14 Chorus Lane, that there will be a full analysis of environmental impacts for this project, and we have submitted robust applications both to this board and to the planning board. They're all available for public review. As the speaker said, HHFT does have a dialogue ongoing with the neighbors, and so I just wanted to the extent that there was any impression given that HHFT is withholding information, not sharing information, we understand the process, and we will be participating in the process and fully expect members of the public to participate in that process.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Renato Pistolesi. I'm not sure about which board member made a comment earlier today about the tow list. I'm not sure if it was Councilman Rye or Foreman. It might have been you. The podium was blocking my view. You had mentioned that we've had 4 tow companies on the list for quite some time now. It's actually probably about 3 years. But that has nothing, that doesn't touch the fact that it took me over 20 years of coming in front of the board to get on this list, okay? I am a taxpayer in the town of Fishkill. My family is taxpayers in the town of Fishkill. Unless something's changed, I'm not sure, I could be wrong, who we're talking about, rents, okay? Now, so, and we're talking about the same company, Tow Boss, that very recently, one of his trucks were going down 84, and some debris fell off the truck and struck a car behind it. The person that was driving that car, husband, I'm not going to give you the name, is a police officer in the town of Fishkill. That police officer visited the location and said to him, this is what happened. Not my truck, it's your truck. Not my truck. Showed him pictures. Oh. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up to you. This is the same tow company that was suspended from the state police for unethical overcharging and different kind of tactics, all right? So when you consider another tow company, another apple to put in with the 4 good apples, you might want to consider that apple might be a little rotted that you don't know about. Sure, he's got a nice shop. Sure, he's got nice trucks. It's all irrelevant. You know, it's all irrelevant. We all have nice trucks and shops. So it's who you want to put on the tow list, and you should really take into consideration on who you're going to put on that tow list. And as far as the chief goes, the one that, you know, exited the department, for over 2 years, I've tried reaching this gentleman, okay? For over 2 years, I've left messages. For over 2 years, I've called for concerns about the tow list when my company was jumped over for whatever reason, who knows why. It always ended up being my company, and I tried to correct the list. For over 2 years, the chief never responded back to me once. Never got a phone call, a letter, nothing, okay? So as far as him being missed, I'm glad to see him go. And I hope you're listening, Chief. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Evening, board. My name's Rob Schultz. I'm friends with Tow Boss. As far as that incident on 84 goes, that's bogus. Not even close. As far as Tow Boss being kicked off the state police list, that was a long time ago when he first started out. He didn't realize that there was a billing procedure. So they corrected it all, and he's been back on that list ever since then. There has been no issues. As far as the list that you guys have, Tow Boss has a building. Tow Boss has a secured lot. If you go over to Alto, there is no building, and there is no secured lot. It's just a parking lot with cars. That's it. So he's not in compliance with your rules. So I don't, you know, this is why we've been trying to get on the list and everything. We are 100% well, Tow Boss, excuse me. Tow Boss is 100% legit in what you guys are looking for. He has 4 tow trucks. He can get any accident scene that you have. He can take care of all the cars. We don't have to call help like other companies have in the past. Call other tow companies to come and assist because there's more than 1 or 2 cars that they can't handle. Greg, you said something about the police chief. He didn't add something else into the list that you asked for?
When we discussed this at our last board meeting, I said that among my concerns about this was the question of operational need. Because in 2020 or 2021, when this, I think it was 2021, when this was brought up and the list was expanded from 2 to 4, there was considerable resistance from the police administration, which argued that the 2 companies which were on the list in the first place, there was no need to expand beyond it because all of the tow demands were being met.
Right.
I wanted there to be some sort of an analysis. I would have loved to find out, you know, what are each tow company's response rates? What is their average response time? Are there any calls for tow trucks that are being missed? Is there anything that can be demonstrated to me based on what has been the precedent established by the police department that we do not expand the list unless we need to? Can someone demonstrate to me that we need to?
Right.
Because here's the thing, I've known Matt for a few years. When Matt was applying a few years ago to be added to the list, I helped him fill out the application for it. But I was a town employee then, I'm a town councilman now. Now I have to operate based on procedures and best practices here. And the procedures and best practices for me here do not provide me with any precedent by which I can add someone to a tow list because I've got a good relationship with him and he's a nice guy. I recognize that he's got all of the paperwork and everything in line. He had that in line a couple of years ago when we applied the paperwork. Everything looks like it's in order. But I have received absolutely nothing to tell me that this is a necessary action.
So what if somebody's not in?
But now
That's
here's
it.
my.
No, that's it, come on.
But now
Joe,
here's.
Greg, no more engaging, let him speak and let the other guys finish.
Here's my next thing
We'll
now
go the
to
vote.
one of your, hold on. Here's my next thing to what you just said though. With response time, how could you then say, well, what's his response time when he's not even on the tow list, so you're not even gonna know?
Let them speak.
Compared to the other ones that are on the list.
Approach of the floor for agenda items. You want to say something, sir?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I hear what you're saying. It is the lack of information that I have,
But,
you know.
Greg,
Don't
Greg,
engage.
you missed the point. The point was, if you were specific on what you were looking for, you had every opportunity to say it that night or reach out to me. I've reached out to you numerous times. I spoke to you briefly at the food pantry. I met you at the grocery store when I ran into you. You didn't say anything, okay? And I guess, you know, there's a fine line here, okay? You guys obviously don't want me on, okay? And, you know, I gotta tell you, you know, I'm real disappointed in you, Supervisor. You were for me 3 years ago. Go back to the tape. You were for me.
It's sad
okay?
for an actual person that's
You were
paying the
for
town
me.
taxes.
You guys are missing a big point here. All the tow companies that are on this list right now in the town of Fishkill, does any of them have heavies? Has anybody ever thought about towing a tractor trailer? What do? You know who you call them? Brandles, okay?
Okay, Mr., sir, that's it. That's it.
My goal was, if I got on this list tonight, okay, things were already in motion for heavies, okay? Nobody's ever brought this up, okay? Route 9 in front of my shop has been shut down, I don't know, 6 or 7 times in the last 2 years due to tractor trailer rollovers or stuck, okay? And they gotta wait for a heavy to come out of Poughkeepsie. Nobody thinks about that. But guess what? We are. We're thinking about that. Because in this town, nobody has heavies. I mean, you know, I've already thought about this, and roll's already being in motion, okay? And I can have 2 heavies here by next week. But all because of my past, okay? You guys are gonna keep me off the list because of my past.
Well, Greg,
Okay?
that's it, Greg, that's it, let him
Hold on,
speak.
Supervisor, okay?
Speak.
Hold on.
Speak.
You were for me 3 years ago, and I'd like to know what happened, why you changed your mind now.
I think 4 is enough.
No, that's not good enough, okay? Because what's
Right
gonna
now, it's privilege of the floor for agenda items. You're allowed to make a comment. This is not an answer in session.
No, it
So you
is,
can make.
it is, because you've
All right.
you never given me a reason.
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we're gonna move forward to resolution, consent agenda. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is resolution to update the Town of Fishkill toll rotation list, ID number 9470. Whereas the town has considered the request of a toll companies desiring to be added to the toll rotational toll list, and whereas the town has completed background checks of each provider, place, business, employed tow truck operators, and whereas the town board desired to update the list of eligible toll companies based upon such review and consideration. Now therefore be resolved, the town board as follows. Section 1, all whereas paragraphs incorporated herein by reference set forth in full. Section 2, the town board hereby approves the addition of a toll boss to the town of Fishkill rotational toll list, subject to the town's receipt of a completed version of the new application. Such company shall be added to the rotational toll list effective upon receipt of such complete application. Section 3, the town supervisor or any other officer, employee as directed by the town supervisor, shall take any and all necessary actions to carry out the provisions of this resolution. Section 5, this resolution shall be effective immediately. Somebody needs to make a motion, and somebody needs to do a second.
I make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Foreman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rye. Roll call vote.
Okay, all righty. Councilmember Tatino?
Nay.
Councilmember Rye?
Yes.
Councilmember Foreman?
Yes.
Supervisor Albert?
No. Motion fails. Next resolution will be number 2. Resolution approving request for reduction in the posted performance bond. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board, number 1, the town board hereby grants the request to reduce the required amount of performance security of the said project from $3.265501.35 to $1.116,541.10, and 2, that the undertaking for the performance security in the reduced amount shall be posted in the form of a cash deposit, the assignment of a bank account, or the posting of a letter of credit required by the town code, section 150-97, subparagraph D, and section 3, the undertaking for the performance security and the amount reduced shall be posted in a form acceptable to the town attorney, and 4, the bond currently posted as performance security shall be retained in file in effect until such undertaking performance security is in the reduced amount has been posted to the town clerk. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have 2 items for special consideration.
That's right.
What?
One is just a resolution for declare a police vehicle as surplus, ID number 9498. Whereas the town of Fishkill owns vehicles for use by the town police department, and whereas the vehicles have been replaced or taken out of service and no longer needed, whereas the town supervisor, Ozzie Albert, has recommended the following vehicles be deemed surplus: a Dodge Charger 4-door, VIN 2 Charlie 3 Charlie David X King Tom 8 King Henry 700773 to auctionsinternational.com. Whereas in accordance to the state finance law, the town board declares property as described as attached surplus. Whereas the town board further directs town controller to delete the surplus property from the inventory. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Fishkill hereby is authorized the supervisor to dispose of the property as listed. Be it further resolved, the said item shall be sold as is, condition without any warranty as to a condition. Can I present that as a I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next 2 are for the tax cert. So this is another tax cert discussion and resolution. Vanderwater and Vanderwater. It's 1401 Route 82 against the town of Fishkill for the tax years 2022, 2023, 2024. It goes from 3.8 million to 2.8 million, a reduction of 1 million. Whereas tax certiorari proceedings have been filed against the town of Fishkill by 1401 Route 52 LLC in regard to assessments upon certain property located in the town of Fishkill, designated on map number 6256-03-198-139-0000, whereas desire to settle the 2022, 2023, 2024 proceedings, now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill authorizes Colin Barnett and the law firm of Vanderwater and Vanderwater, 85 Civic Center Plaza, Poughkeepsie, New York, to negotiate a settlement whereby the 2024 assessments will be settled in accordance with the attached proposed consent judgment and agreement. And that's it. Any discussion? We don't like these, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. New and old business. I'll start with you, Greg.
I do just want to address one thing that was said at the podium shortly before this rather contentious vote that was just taken. An individual seemed to think that there was something personal in the way that this vote was going. It's not a question of personality. I've known him for a few years. I like him. It's a question of need. When we spoke last time, I thought that I had made that clear, especially because when we initially expanded this, the types of factors that I was looking for were exactly the facts and figures that were being provided proactively by the chief of police as a reason why we shouldn't have expanded the list in the first place. And now we receive a, half-page long memo written on the day of his resignation. Basically saying, I met him, he's nice, his paperwork looks good, sure. Which addressed absolutely none of the questions that I had. So I will pledge to do my part to make my concerns and the questions that I have more clear in the future. I don't particularly like being put in the position that I was put in this evening of being expected to vote when nothing that I asked for was provided. And in the future, I will be more vocal about not having received what I was looking for, so as to spare anyone any frustration of coming before the board thinking that everything was good to go or having been given promises by people, which I'm not prepared to meet. I'm going to always exercise my best judgment. You can agree or disagree with that. I respect that completely. But there was absolutely nothing personal in my decision tonight. I've had a good relationship with this individual for years. I'm disappointed that, you know, this outcome is going to be very frustrating for that entity. But I made the choice I needed to make for the residents of the town of Fishkill. So, John?
That's it, that's it.
Greg,
There's no conversation.
You know, how many meetings did you have with Chief Dworkin?
0. He also
Okay.
never
You know
answered
what?
the phone when I called him.
No, hold on, I asked you a question. I would say 10 times you what came out of your mouth, you know, Chief, we need to have a meeting. I'm going to have a meeting with you, Chief, because I really want to talk to you. I want to meet with you. Not one meeting. You could have had a meeting with him to address some of these issues that now are coming up to fruition. You know, listen, for the residents of Fishkill, you voted no. Residents of Fishkill don't care whether there's 3, 4, 5, or 6 towing contractors on the tow list. I don't know where you're coming up with that. No, they don't care. But you know what? You don't want to vote for it, and that's up to you.
Okay,
Just don't give me.
I've got 2 things to say
You know,
in reply to that.
crappy answers, excuses why you're not doing it.
Okay, well, John,
Everybody
he
has
said
to-
his
you have
piece,
a
I'm going to reply. The first thing that I would like to say is I'm not entirely sure that you should be making broad statements as to what the residents of the town of Fishkill care about. Because whether or not a majority, a minority, a single person, or everyone cares specifically about the minutia of this particular policy, I was elected by the town of Fishkill to make decisions in the public interest. So saying that the public interest was not affected by this vote,
They're not.
then you should resign, my friend.
Why?
Why are you here?
Why do you think people care how many towing contractors are in Fishkill?
And why do you think people shouldn't? And again, it's not the number of contractors which exist in the town. It is a question of the town operating under a set of policies which are consistent and make sense. I asked for the same logic to be presented to me that was presented to the board when the list was augmented in 2021. None of that information was provided for me, and yet I was expected to act anyway.
That's
That's number 1.
That's on you.
And I'm afraid I can't remember number 2, so
Can I,
guess
can
I'll
I
just have to
can
wait
I
for
make
another
a
day.
request?
Calling the chief.
You guys-
Oh, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Thank you. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, because I've said it 15 different times, mostly to Brian because of what's been said at various points in meetings, but I cannot emphasize enough the degree to which the relationship which the 2 of you gentlemen, Brian and John, had with our former chief of police is night to day to the relationship that Supervisor Albra and I had to the chief of police. Namely, if you wanted a meeting, if you sent him a text, if you called him, he picked up the phone, he talked to you, he met with you. That courtesy was never extended to me. I'd like to make it clear that while the chief of police answered to the entire town board, the only people on this board he ever spoke to were the 2 of you. And
I'm not in
I would also
charge
like
of
to
that.
add to the point that the 2
I'm
of
not
you,
in
through
charge of
your
that.
behaviors at this
I
dais,
was never in
contributed to that
charge.
action.
I was never in charge of his schedule. I know nothing about that. As I would meet with Carmine, as I would meet with anybody else or any other organization.
That's not a
don't
criticism of you, Brian.
characterize
It's not a
the
criticism
meetings
of
that
you.
I
It's
would
a-
have with the police chief as a negative thing.
I'm-
That's, and you know what? That's in the past. We're now moving forward, and we're at the point where we're talking about new and old business. So can we just conclude this meeting?
The point I was making, Brian, was not to criticize your relationship with the chief. On the contrary, I think it's excellent if a department head and members of the town board can have that type of a productive relationship. It was rather bemoaning the fact that that opportunity was excluded to Supervisor Alberend and myself.
I disagree.
You know what?
You're done.
Yeah,
You're done.
That's all.
Good. You made a
Brian,
point.
you're up, Brian. This is your time.
You made your point, Greg. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, Brian.
Thank you, bud. So, new and old business. First of all, I mean, I don't know, I feel a little silly about doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Today is National Purple Heart Day. Did you know that? And so, if you have not seen a Purple Heart, this is my father's, and I have it right here, and I just wanted to emphasize that because it's National Purple Heart Day, and thank you, Virgil, for pointing that out. Now, to move on to new business.
And thank you, Brian, for your family service.
Well, that's my father. I appreciate that. So I've been talking to Carmine and about internal signs in Town Hall, and we're going to develop a plan and present it to the board, but we're going to look at signs and get it all done. We need directional, we need offices, we need something professional. So I think I've talked about this in the past, Supervisor.
I'm good with it, whatever you guys decide.
Yeah,
Yep, same.
so we're going to work on that.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about a park that is on the way to Castle Point after you turn on 9D, going to Castle, off of 9D, going
Camp
to Castle
Foster.
Point. You take that immediate
Foster.
left.
Camp Foster.
Camp Foster. So I've been talking to Carmine, and, he's a busy little boy, as we all know. And that is just this a jewel right there that no one uses. And so he has plans for revitalizing it in that he'll have a walking path around the little lake that's there. And there's also up on a hill sort of a covering where people can gather and have food and picnic and all kinds of things. And it's going to be revitalized, and it's going to be a beautiful thing that will be an asset to that section of the town where nobody has one. So my thought, though, is because nobody understands Camp Foster and where that name came from and anything about it, is would this board entertain and consider renaming that park the Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park?
It was named Camp Foster after the Girl Scouts. I don't know if they donated the land or we bought it, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But Camp Foster was the old Girl Scout camp.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to do that. And the town board since I've been in here, my predecessor has some things on there, such as there's a bridge that was built in-house by Brandon and his staff. That got done.
I've walked it.
And I added the aerator, which has different colors at night.
It's a great area.
And
I love it.
a storm went through there, and they were able to navigate through there and clean
Yeah.
up the site. So
Yeah.
there has been significant work done on that park. But
let's look at it.
You want to add more things? I'm down with that, because like I said earlier, we have beautiful finances. I'm all about the parks. Jan Van Pelt Park is getting the deck done. That park is beautiful. Doug Phillips Park is up to par. Kieran Park is up to par.
So back to my point.
Well, let me finish. The lights are coming for Shepherd's Park. We're going to do the paving there next year. And we've got this park, Camp Foster on 9D, and then we got the other one that we took off the water tower, giving us a beautiful acre of land next to the, right off of 90, just north of the bridge,
Right.
with seasonal views of the Hudson River. I'd like to make that a little pocket park. So anything regarding parks or recreation or historical preservation, I'm always in for it.
So the upgrades to that, it's just conversational right now, is certainly a walking path around it. And I said, why don't you put the occasional bench along that so people can enjoy that water spout thing that's there, which is beautiful and wonderful. But I really would love us to consider naming that, because one day Castle Point's going to be closed. It's slowly closing down with less and less service. The buildings are, many of them are just not being used. I actually toured it a number of years ago when I was trying to do business with them. That's another story. But I just feel like that, renaming that, I really want us to consider that. Okay? That's it.
Mr. Gaba, could there be something in the deed to prevent that from happening?
You read my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. You're going to want to look at the deed before you get into that. It may have been a condition of the
So Brian, you want
conveyance.
to authorize the town attorney to review the deed to see if there's any conditions to not allow that to happen?
Would
Or
you-
let it happen?
Can we do that? Would you do that?
Well, I don't mind doing it. I'm going to have a title search done unless the town has it on file. I don't know
No
if
one can
Becky's got
find
it.
anything.
No, Carmine can't find anything?
They can't find anything.
You've already looked?
Yes, but you know what, let me recheck on that.
If Brian can't find anything, can we authorize the town attorney to do a title search? You guys okay with that?
Can we do that? Yes, I would
Yeah,
like to
absolutely.
do that.
John, you okay with it?
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
so if Brian can't find anything, you can start the title search.
I'll check with him later.
Okay, all right, my turn. We got that, Hudson Fjord Trail's coming. There's a spur that goes from Beacon all the way to Connecticut. It's gonna go from Beacon through Fishkill to East Fishkill to connect to the Dutchess County Rail Trail. I've gotten a lot of concerns from citizens that own property along the trail. Can we authorize the town attorney to look into some of the citizens' concern and come back with maybe a position paper of what's gonna happen?
What have you heard?
I heard that if the railroad leaves, it goes back to the property that owned it at one time, but I don't know if that's even true. I don't know, so that's why I wanted to see if the town attorney can look into these things. There's a couple of businesses that might be landlocked. I don't know if they lose access, so I'd like to, this ain't gonna happen for 4 or 5 years at the very least, but at least when people call me, I can have an answer for them.
Sure.
John?
I mean, do you see a problem with this?
Well, if it was a roadway and a roadway, municipal roadway, was abandoned, then the land beneath the roadway would go back to the property owners on either side, to the middle of the roadway. Sometimes that's the case with railroad beds, sometimes it's not the case with railroad beds. Sometimes you see a long rectangular or, curved, depending on how the configuration of the lot is, piece of land which is owned by the railroad. And just because they stop using it, they still own that lot. It doesn't go back to the adjoining property owners. So you're gonna have to take a look at, your tax map and the land records to figure out what happens if and when the railroad bed stops being used.
Yeah, this is gonna happen. The Dutchess County already used ARPA money to do a study, a preliminary study, so it's gonna happen, and I'd like to give answers to the public if, I just don't have them, I just don't know.
I think it's a reasonable request.
I agree. You good with it? Okay, I'll give this to Mr. Galba when I'm done. It was a good meeting. We're running close to 11 o'clock. People think this is a long meeting. My fellow supervisors throughout the county of Dutchess, they go to 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And tonight, we probably had 1 hour and 45 minutes of public participation without a time limit. That's my commitment to open government, whether it's good news or bad news. I think everybody in Fishkill should be proud of that. It is a good thing. Our next town board meeting will be September 4th. We're going to go in executive session to talk about a personnel matter. We're not going to vote on anything when we get out of there. And I wish everybody a good evening and enjoy the rest of your summer. God bless America and the town of Fishkill. Good night. Make a motion to leave the regular course of business to go into executive session. Can I have a second?
Executive
All in
session
favor?
for personnel.
Personnel matters,
Personnel
yeah.
purposes, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Off the record, I invite anybody at the big table.